Descent of the Adorable Baby Fox. 1. Did you know? Reportedly some time ago our Bai family's first miss was having an affair with a stranger outside and that she was caught by the second miss red-handed during their act. To make it more scandalous, the first miss even turned the whole thing around and blamed her younger sister for framing her. Can you believe that? The second miss even cried on the spot when it happened. Speaking of the first miss, don't you think her fate's simply too good? Despite being a useless person, she still managed to become the fiancée of the second prince, yet she still cheated on His Highness when the prince didn't mind her uselessness. I know, right? It's bad enough granted she lost her chastity, but the lady even went and got herself pregnant. With all that ruckus going on outside, the royal family's face is practically dragged through the mud because of her. I also heard that in order to compensate His Highness, our Bai family had to betroth the second miss to him. And did you know? The second miss is so forgiving that she's trying to persuade His Highness into taking the first miss as an extra concubine. Tell me, as a woman who lost their chastity, do you think she is deserving to be the second prince's woman? Seated in her bed, Bai Yan gently caresses her still flat abdomen. Towards the boisterous discussion coming from the outside, there's no emotion in her eyes, only the calm that can be found in a rippleless pond. This translation is only hosted on Catranslation 3 months ago when she first came to this world, a time where she's still unfamiliar with her environment. Her good stepsister Bai Rua had arranged a very fine and ugly man for her without permission. Behold, her desperate escape. Despite clawing her way out from under the vile man's grasp, she eventually failed to resist the aphrodisiac in her body and had to rely on a random man she found in the wild to relieve its effect. Even if there were only her alone in the forest by the time Bai Rua arrived at the scene, the marks on the body were evident enough of what happened. In Bai Yan's mind, a pair of bloodthirsty eyes belonging to that stranger suddenly appeared, clouding her vision like a haze of fog. It's unsure if it's due to the drug or that it's too traumatic, but she simply couldn't remember the face of that man. Sister, a familiar voice pulls her back to reality. Raising her head, Bai Yan was welcomed by the figure of a handsome and elegant young man walking through the door. From the memories she inherited through the original host of this body, Bai Yan can tell the boy was called Bai Shao, her younger brother. Born of the same mother, he's the only person left in this world whom she cared for. Years ago, after their biological mother Lan Yu passed away, their birth father Bai Zhengxiang immediately raised one of his concubines' status into the main wife. As a result, that woman named Yu Rong and her 2 daughters, Bai Rua and Bai Ji, instantly rose over Ban Yan and her brother in terms of status within the family. If not for their mother's maiden family, the Lan household still being around to act as deterrents, the 2 of them, mere orphans at that point, would have been left with nowhere else to go. However, all things will change following the passage of time. Nowadays there aren't a single soul left who still remembers the main reasoning behind the Bai family's success had in large been due to the Lan family's support. Back then the chief of the Lan family had refused to let his daughter marry into the Bai family because the man had already taken in several concubines under his name. Sadly, Lan Yu threatened to sever their father and daughter relationship, thus forcing Lord Lan into agreement. In order to not allow Lan Yu suffer any grievances in this marriage, the Lan family had prepared a wedding dress that stretched over 10 lees in length, leading to a sensation across the city. Then, to top things off, the Lan family also broke their coffer to purchase countless medicinal pills to act as dowry for Lan Yu. But who would have guessed things would turn out so horribly not long after? Unable to resist the sweet honeying words of her husband, the foolish woman went as far to submissively give away those precious medicines that her own family gave her. As a result of this endeavor, Bai Zhengxiang was able to directly break into the sky rank with the aid and propelled his Bai family into a first-rate noble household. It can be said the prestigious status of the current Bai family was the result of Lan Yu's sacrifice. If Bai Yan herself, the current her, can feel such outrage, it's not hard to imagine how angry Lord Lan must have been over the years to go as far as to distance himself from his daughter. Simply said, the man had truly been hurt by his own flesh and blood. Sister. Bai Shao appears to be struggling to speak, don't be too sad, it's the second prince's loss for breaking off the marriage with you. I've long noticed the unusual gazes coming off of Bai Ruo and the second prince. The relationship between them can't be normal. Descent of the adorable baby fox, 2. Finding only silence from her sister for so long, Bai Xiao assumed it's due to the sadness revolving the recent events. Why do you say it's the second prince's loss when everyone believes it's I who betrayed him? A laugh nearly escaped her mouth. I trust you. No way my sister would betray him, so that leaves me to believe you must have been framed. The boy's expression was firm as he spoke in a vicious tone. If I find out who that person is, I will definitely not let them off. Bai Yan's heart trembled at that statement, for an inexplicable feeling was starting to form in her heart. In the past life, she herself was the descendant of an ancient Chinese martial art family. As such, she's been instilled with the concept of becoming strong since her childhood. And in order to meet that demand, she deserted her friends and family to reach that goal. In the end, she lost her life alone at the hands of a lightning strike from the heavens during her efforts to refine a 9th-rank Dan pill. Now that she's able to get a new lease on life again through great difficulty after having her soul extinguished and body destroyed, she's not going to repeat the same mistake as she did during her past life. Family and friends will supersede her pursuit for power this time. This translation is only hosted on Catranslation. Oh yes, rummaging through his pocket, the young boy then pulls out a small coin purse and placed it in her hands. You are now pregnant, so your body needs nourishment. These bank notes are for you. Squeezing the coin purse, Bai Yan's heart ached at the sensation in her fingers. Where did you get this money from? I pawned the jade pendant that mother left me when she was still alive. That's when Bai Yan's heart had clenched even tighter. Don't be fooled by their glorious appearance on the outside. In reality, the Bai family would frequently deduct their monthly allowances, and even Lan Yu's dowry were now in stepmother Yu Rong's hand. As it so happens, these two siblings are also quite stubborn in their personalities. They knew their mother had thoroughly disappointed their maternal grandfather. No matter how much suffering they endured, neither siblings would seek out the Lan family for help. It didn't help either when the Lan family was overconfident in their assumptions. They believed the Bai family wouldn't maltreat the two siblings. Besides, their mother's dowry alone was enough for the pair to live out their lives in luxury. But in reality, while Yu Rong's daughters gets to drape themselves in fine clothes and eat exotic delicacies, Bai Yan and her brother on the other hand had to starve on regular intervals. The most laughable part was that Bai Zhenxiang didn't even know how to do business, while Yu Rong was a massive spender. During these years, the expenses incurred by the Bai family were all funded by Lan Yu's dowry. As for Bai Zhao's jade pendant, it's the only item left for him by Lan Yu as a memento in which he kept hidden all these years. If he hadn't concealed it so deeply, it's likely that their stepmother Yu Rong would have taken it away long ago too. While all kinds of thoughts were running through Bai Yan's mind, a maidservant had pompously entered the premise without permission, thus interrupting the siblings' conversation. Miss, the madam is seeking your audience. Sister. Bai Xiao hastily grabs her hand, his eyes filled with worry. Don't worry, I will be fine. Bai Yan comforts her brother by patting Bai Xiao on the hand. Giving him a meaningful wink, she then headed towards the doorway. In an instant, a majestic and imposing aura radiates out of the young lady. Her alluring red dress spread far and wide, her icy cold eyes sharp and dangerous. Following each of her step, the maidservant would have a harder time breathing, like something has clutched onto her throat. Don't forget, you are merely a servant here. Even if I'm not in favor, I'm still a master of the Bai residence. Not asking me for my permission to enter my chamber is akin to disrespecting me, thus I am in my right to have you beaten to death. The maidservant's face turned ashen with fright. She had signed the slavery contract, therefore even if the master wanted to kill her, she would have no choice but to die. Due to Bai Yan being too timid previously, the maid had become complacent around her and forgot this crucial fact. Lead the way. The young lady's tone was cold and detached, making her unquestionable. Yes, milady. No longer daring to act out of place, the maidservant understands well enough that even if the one in front of her had a bad reputation, the lady had every authority to punish a servant. Blankly staring at the retreating figure's back, Bai Xiao got the aching nudge in the back of his head that her elder sister have changed over these past few months. She's stronger, more reliable, and enough to put his mind at ease. If you like this translation, consider donating for an extra release or simply turning off adblock helps too. Descent of the Adorable Baby Fox, 3. When Bai Yan entered the main room, there were already others inside, mainly her stepmother Yu Rong and a silver-haired old lady. The old woman obviously wasn't of the Bai family, instead, it's Yu Rong's biological mother and Bai Zhenxiang's aunt. 10 years ago, old Madame Yu had intended to let her nephew, Bai Zhenxiang, marry Yu Rong to increase their family bond, but the man disliked the fact that his cousin couldn't bring more to the table. To remedy the situation, the man only allowed Yu Rong to enter his Bai family as a concubine while Bai Zhenxiang took Lan Yu as his main wife. Then once Lan Yu passed away, the heartless scumbag immediately raised Yu Rong's status into his main wife. To make things more despicable was how easily he invited the old madam into their house after Yu Rong repeatedly pleaded to him with her tears. Nowadays, Bai Zhenxiang literally treats the old madam like his own mother. With filial piety and respect. Like daughter like mother. If Yu Rong was such a heavy spender, old Madame Yu can't be all that thrifty either. Over the years, most of the Lan family's dowry have been expended at their hands, leaving hardly any left at this point. Bai Yan, be honest and quickly confess. Who is the adulterer? Old Madame Yu tilts her head high, her manner of speech haughty and arrogant like someone interrogating a convict. And what does that have to do with you? Bai Yan's lip curved in a shallow smile, her eyes cold as she gazed at the old woman seated before her. Insolent. Old Madame Yu angrily slaps the table next to her. I am your maternal grandmother, so of course I have the right to know who your adulterer is. My maternal grandmother? My maternal grandmother is in the Lan family right now. As for you, you are merely Bai Ruo and Bai Ji's grandmother. Now quit adding gold to your own face. The old woman's face was starting to distort due to anger. Nothing but a wild child without a mother, what qualifications does she have to be so arrogant in front of me? Mother, please calm your anger. Yu Rong quickly came over to soothe her mother's back. Looking back at the girl, Bai Yan, the truth is I called you over today to tell you some good news. Someone is willing to take you as their concubine so long as you abort your child. So in your opinion the eldest daughter of the Bai family is only fit you be someone's concubine? Bai Yan closes in on the two, her voice carrying a trace of frost. Grunting, the old madam rebuts her, you are but a lowly wench who lost her virginity at this point, what right do you have to be picky? I'm telling you, the old one from the Qian family is willing to offer up a genuine third-grade spiritual Dan pill for your betrothal gift. Now that there's a man willing to take you, what right do you have left to choose? Bai Yan narrows her eye. I've heard the master of that Qian family is already over 50 years old, and that his temperament is brutal and ruthless. According to what I know, his concubines are constantly dying under shady circumstances. Are you intent on having me throw away my life? The Qian family was also one of the 4 aristocratic families in the city, but their reputation was mostly gained through their vicious cruelty. It's said that if a woman enters the Qian household, the only way out would be as a corpse. You stinkin' lass, our Bai family fed you and raised you for so many years, shouldn't you at least return some of it? Let me tell you the truth then, my son has reached the lower level of the earth rank and requires a genuine spiritual pill to break through. So, this time you can only marry into the Qian household as a concubine. Bai Yan had long known these people are shameless, but she never expected them to be of this extent. Sneering, first, your surname is Yu, not Bai. If others hear you they might presume you are the old mistress of our Bai family. Secondly, what does it have to do with me if your son needs a spiritual pill? How does it relate to me, and why should I sacrifice myself for your Yu family? Thirdly, you mentioned about the Bai family having to raise me since I was young, but this Bai household only reached its current status because of my mother. Heck, even the dress you are wearing right now comes from my mother's dowry. Livid with anger, old Madame Yu starts to tremble all over after being reprimanded so openly. Treasured Fox soon to be born. 3. When Bai Yan entered into the main room, she saw that aside from Yu Rong, there is a silver-haired old lady beside her. The old lady isn't the matriarch of the Bai family, instead, it is Yu Rong's biological mother and also Bai Zhenxiang's aunt. 10 years ago, the old Madame Yu intended to let her nephew marry Yu Rong, but Bai Zhenxiang couldn't afford to give up on his home. Thus she let Yu Rong to enter the Bai household as a concubine, while Lan Yu was married as the main wife. After Lan Yu died, Yu Rong became the main wife. As Bai Zhenxiang couldn't bear seeing Yu Rong tearfully complains about the rumors concerning her, he invited old Madame Yu to reside within the Bai household, letting it known as if an act of filial pity to the mother-in-law. To have Yu Rong as her daughter, old Madame Yu wasn't frugal at all. The Lan family dowry that had been sent when Lan Yu had married into the Bai household, they had been spent years ago by the people who was left behind. Bai Yan, be honest and quickly confess, who is the man that defiled you? The old lady snapped at her arrogantly, as if asking a prisoner. Who are you? Bai Yan's lips curved in a shallow smile, her eyes gazed coldly at old Madame Yu who was seated in front of her. Impudent! Old Madame Yu angrily snapped a hand on the top of the table. I am your grandmother. Who is the person that defiled you? What is the name of the man? My maternal grandmother. My grandmother is the Lan matriarch. You are merely the matriarch of Bai Ruo and Bai Ji, and nothing more. You, the old lady's face distorted, a wild child without a mother, what qualifications did she have to be haughty in front of her? Mother, cool off your anger. Yu Rong quickly stroked the old woman's chest then looked at Bai Yan. Bai Yan, in fact I asked for you today is to tell you about a good news. Someone didn't mind that you are with child, and he intends to marry you as a concubine. In your opinion, the eldest daughter of the Bai family could only fit to be a concubine. Bai Yan said to the two women with a voice traced with coldness. The old lady quickly rebutted with anger. You crazy lowly wench, daring to be picky? I'm telling you, in order to marry you as a concubine, the Qian family had prepared a bunch of genuine third-grade spiritual pills for your betrothal gifts. Now that there is a man who is willing to ask for your hand in marriage, you should feel grateful. What qualifications do you have to choose? Bai Yan's eyes narrowed and her pupils filled with coldness. I've heard that the master of Qian family is already over 50 years old, his temperament is ruthless, and his concubine always dies under shady circumstances. Do you intend on having me throw my life away? The Qian family is also a part of the 4 aristocratic families, however they are also known to be vicious. It is said that if a woman entered into the Qian household, she will be killed silently without any repercussion. You, loathsome girl, we the Bai household had been feeding you for so many years, shouldn't you also give in and sacrifice? To tell you the truth, my son has reached the lower ranks of the earth rank and requires genuine spiritual pills to break through. So this time, you need to marry the Qian household as a concubine. Bai Yan had known that these people are shameless, but she didn't expect that they'd be shameless to this extent. She sneered, first, your family is not the Bai household. If heard by people who don't know any better, they may presume that you are the matriarch of the Bai household. Second, your son needed a sacrifice, and how is that related to me? Why should I sacrifice myself for your Yu family? Third, you mentioned about Bai family having raised me since little, but this Bai household reached their current reputation is because of my mother, even the dress you wore, isn't it also bought with my mother's dowry? Treasured Fox soon to be born, 4, as expected of a bastard child lacking the upbringings of a mother. My son is your maternal uncle, what's wrong with sacrificing a little bit for him? For someone like you who isn't chaste nor clean, now that someone is actually willing to have you, you should be secretly happy. She hadn't managed to scold to her heart's content, so she didn't even realize that Bai Yan's surrounding temperature had dropped so low, then coldly stated, "But, you and your sly mother seem to have the same revolting behaviors. The whole person is filled with strong foul smell. Firstly, you seized the prince, and is now involved with matters which had offended the public morals. Plus, you would even be so heartless towards your own relatives. Wait till your father comes back, I'll immediately have him beat you to death." Bai Yan raised the corner of her mouth, quietly listening as the old Madame Yu continued to reprimand her, staring at her with a pair of ice-cold eyes. Those eyes contained a surging murderous intent, as if it could burst forth at any moment. "Mother, don't say any more." Yu Rong feigned persuasion. She then turned towards Bai Yan again. "Yenner, as a relative, one ought to mutually help each other. Your uncle needs help, how could you not help? Besides, your father dislikes people who are cold and heartless. In the past, Bai Yan cares the most about Bai Zhenxiang, this father. Yu Rong would always made use of Bai Zhenxiang's name to pressure her, making her agree to anything. She would even be willing to hide the matters of her suffering, harsh treatments at the Bai house. She didn't even reveal a single word. But, the current her, is no longer the previous Bai Yan. As relatives, one ought to mutually help each other, these spoken words, that's right. Yu family is after all Yu Rong's relatives, it has nothing to do with me. You can let Bai Ruo or Bai Ji be married off, surely they don't wish to be a cold and ruthless person." Yu Rong's face distorted, towards her sweet coaxing manner of talking, she actually have the cheeks to refuse? Moreover, she made use of Bai Zhenxiang's name to pressure her, it's unexpectedly not effective. Presumptuous. Old Madame Yu fiercely glared, "My Jier is only 12 years old, you would actually let a 12 years old to marry off to a 60 years old man as a concubine? How could you suggest such malicious things? You're really no different from that poisonous mother of yours." In the eyes of the old madam, Lan Yu is the most malicious person. If not for that woman, her daughter wouldn't become a concubine for so many years. Bai Yan suddenly had the urge to laugh. Bai Ji is just 12 years old, but as for her, she's just 17 years old. Aren't they both young maiden, all the same? Letting Bai Ji be married of as a concubine is considered malicious, so just what she ought to be. As for Roar. Old lady, you coldly snorted, which part of you could compete with Roar? In a few days, she'll soon be married to second prince as the imperial concubine. A pregnant but unmarried woman like you, even dared to suggest that Bai Ruo is to be married off as a concubine to an old man? Someone as selfish as you, who would let their sisters be married off as concubines. What qualifications do you have to act like the honorable young miss of the household? Bai Yan had learned about something useful. This old Madame Yu is quite talented, she could even turn black into white, otherwise Bai Zhenxiang wouldn't have preferred trusting his mother-in-law, rather than his own daughter. I'll reaffirm once more, Bai Yan will absolutely not be married off as a concubine. After Bai Yan's voice fell, the atmosphere of the entire room became suffocating, as if compressed by a heavy pressure. Her gaze was similarly like a sharp blade, coldly shooting a glance towards Yu Rong and old Madame Yu. Yu Rong's breathing turned sluggish for a moment. This smelly girl's imposing manner, when did it turn so powerful? No. This must be my own imagination, Bai Yan is merely a waste, nothing more. Slowly relaxing her tone, she wanted to drag Bai Yan for a berating by the old madam. Yu Rong slowly stood up, then calmly walked towards Bai Yan. Bai Yan, tonight, there will be people from Qian family coming to receive you, even if you're not willing, you'll still have to be the concubine of the old master of Qian family. She raised her head high, seemingly aloof and remote, there was no trace of the previously fake gentleness. Descent of the Adorable Baby Fox, 5, no one can force me into matters that goes against my will. Expressionless, Bai Yan beams with ice in her eyes. Sneering, Yu Rong contemptuously replies, I know you are thinking that your destiny is unfair, that's why you are so opposed to the idea. After all, your former fiancé will soon be taking my daughter as his wife. The status between the two of you now can be described as one in the heavens and the other on the ground. Truth is, if not for your maiden family, do you think the king would bestow a marriage between you and the second prince? Or do you actually believe you can compete with my daughter Roa? My daughter is well educated, gifted with talent, and very sensible. Only she can be the royal concubine of the prince. And someday in the future, my Roa will rule the nation as its queen mother while you can only look up to her in the dust. My Roa is so excellent and wonderful, how can this girl even think about comparing herself? What a joke. I actually think your one and only use is to exchange yourself for a third-grade spiritual pill. In order to express our gratitude for your efforts, I will even let you catch a glimpse of the product after I receive it. Otherwise, a garbage like you wouldn't have a chance to see such a thing in your entire lifetime. Bai Yan sneered at the laudable statement. In her previous lifetime she could even refine an 8th grade Dan pill, let alone some measly 3rd grade. If you called me over today only to say these things, then I ought to advise you to save some energy. Faintly sweeping a glance over the despicable pair within the room, however, the matters of today, I Bai Yan, will definitely engrave this in my mind. When the time comes, I'll have each and every one of you pay the price. When the time comes? Disdain filled the old madam's face, for there wouldn't be another day once this girl enters the Qian family. After tossing her statements out there, Bai Yan confidently turns away from those in the room. She didn't look back, leaving only a trail of red behind her under the afternoon sun. Back inside her own place, Bai Yan was currently sitting on her bedside with her legs crossed. If anyone were to see her now, they will immediately notice a faint yellowish thread of energy flowing into her body. A color trait of those in the yellow rank of their cultivation. This translation is only hosted on Patranslation. 3 months and I'm only at the advanced yellow rank, this speed is simply too slow. If only I can refine some medicinal Dan pills right now, then I can change my physique and increase my speed by several folds. Then again, the former Bai Yan's rank was only a bit stronger than an average person, even weaker than that of a servant here whose usual rank are at the lower yellow rank. As to why she's able to reach the advanced yellow rank, it's all due to her diligent effort within these past few months. The sky soon darkens, and the night turns quiet. Not long after, a series of rustling sound came from the outside. Bai Yan knows this was the signal of the Qian family arriving for her. Sure enough, 2 servant girls came in through the door, their faces cold. Follow us. She didn't speak, only slowly walking out the room in an unhurried manner where there's already a sedan in wait. Not resisting their urge to board, Bai Yan proceeded to step inside as the servant girls promptly closed the sedan door behind her. Just like that, the entourage then quickly sped towards the Qian house without a single master fighter to escort them, because it's a well-known fact that Bai Yan was a weakling and had no way to resist. Perhaps they are afraid of being discovered, but the streets they passed through were the most remote in the city. Therefore, when a loud, banging sound broke out, no one in the public managed to take notice. Dusts and smoke were riled up everywhere as the sedan heavily dropped to the ground. What's going on? The porters were stunned for a moment by the suddenness of it all, but they soon came back to their senses enough to check on the passengers inside. To their horror, the maids that were supposed to be on guard duty inside were all left unconscious. The only one still awake was the young lady lazily popping her against the hand. Towards that face with a set of graceful black hair flowing down her shoulders, only the phrase, soul-stealing, can be used to describe that beauty. Descent of the adorable baby fox. 7. Can someone please tell her why the baby she gave birth to was a hairless fox? Furthermore, how can a newly born fox tug at her clothes and cry mommy? It's one thing to give birth to a fox, but to able to speak too. It can't be that someone was trying to take advantage of her lack of education now. Who are you? After trying oh so hard to speak, Bai Yan finally pressed these words out of her mouth. Mommy, baby hungry. Super cute and clean in his gaze, the baby fox eyed her pathetically in order to win his mother over. Originally Bai Yan was still being depressed over the fact that she gave birth to a fox, but against that sort of adorable face, even her heart was melting. Baby hungry, milky. Slowly crawling up from below, the baby fox leisurely pulled open Bai Yan's chest area and started suckling in comfort. You're burping. The baby fox ends the session with this and took to closing its cute little eyes for sleeping. Apparently, the child had no qualms about napping in his mother's embrace. Seeing the little guy snoozing away so peacefully in her bosom, Bai Yan's heart became touched. You are my child that I carried for 10 months alone. No matter who you are, I will protect you for a lifetime as my son. State teacher, state teacher. Note, the pinyin for the title is Guosher, it means teacher of the state. Personally, I don't know too much about this post, but in dramas they are usually the one the king turns to when there's some sort religious or superstitious stuff going on. Inside a luxurious palace, one girl was quickly running towards a man currently gazing at the stars, her face full of excitement. Just now did all the animals kneel in worship? If even the animals of our demon realm are affected, does that mean I have a nephew now? Looking at the young girl with a smile, the man carrying the state teacher title replies, Princess, the place I sent the king to is the land in which our queen will appear. I did not tell the king before, but it seems your brother has found the queen on his own. As for this commotion, I take it the next king of our demon realm is now born into this world. This translation is only hosted on Catranslation all because of a single prophecy, claiming he cannot conceive unless it's that predestined woman. The king has never married nor taken a concubine over the years. But despite the long wait, that predestined person never came. Then things finally began to move not long ago when stars started to show signs of change. As the state teacher, the man here would naturally take notice of the movement. Using the stars as a guide, he eventually managed to calculate the exact location of the queen's coming, thus the reasoning for him to toss the king out. This is too great. My royal brother can finally say farewell to his long-standing life as a virgin. Jumping up and down with excitement, the girl grabs onto the man's arm like a spoiled brat. State teacher, send me over to the outside world too, I want to see my cute little nephew. Princess, I only managed to send the king over because I took advantage of the seal's weakened state. If you want to go out too, then I will need to first find the right timing. The man helplessly smiles, his eyes full of doting emotions. Spitting out her tongue playfully, fine, when you find the opportunity you must let me go find my royal brother and my lovely little nephew. Perhaps it's due to the birth of her nephew, the little princess didn't tangle onto the man like she usually does. Instead, she turns back at the direction in which she came from. Unfortunately for the princess, she didn't get out far before her path was blocked by a winsome figure. What are you doing? She asks, unhappy at the interference. Princess, did the king really go look for that woman? The owner of that seductive voice was a gorgeous woman akin to a rose. She is my royal brother's destined wife. If my royal brother doesn't go look for her, then is he supposed to look for you instead? The princess angrily states this, her face grumpy and dark. Descent of the adorable baby fox. 8. The woman was rather disdainful, it's but a prophecy, I won't believe his majesty wouldn't be able to produce a child if he marries another woman. Though her mind says that, her heart cannot help but be flustered at the huge movement from earlier. If you got nothing else, then move aside. My royal brother will never like a cheap product like you. After leaving this statement, the princess swung to one side and walked away, leaving behind only the livid-looking woman in the back. At the same time, somewhere else in the second prince's manor, Bairo, stepsister, was heavily panting on the bed after making a loud painful scream. Raising a hand, she dismisses the servants and left only a single maid with her. Lure, you go spread the word that I had a premature birth, and say it's thanks to the heavens that both child and mother is safe. Prior to her marriage, Bairoa had already become pregnant with child. The father would of course be the second prince himself, but such things cannot be made public. Therefore, they can only claim it's a premature birth to cover up the scandal. Yes, your grace. Lua reaffirms the order by repeating it, "Oh yes, your ladyship, just now a miraculous event occurred outside." Because of it, everyone is still in shock. What miraculous event? I heard all the animals in the world were kneeling in worship at our kingdom's direction. All animals prostrating on the ground. Bai Rua's eye lit up, her lips curving into a smile. "Lure, go spread another rumor on top of the first. Say the reasoning for the odd behavior of the animals are due to my baby's birth. The world belongs to one when the animals are prostrating at once. Such conditions, how can I not take advantage of it? Besides, Lure already said it, the direction the animals aimed at is our kingdom. Who knows, maybe it's really meant to worship my baby." As a lowly maid, this servant known as Lure knew far too well this wasn't the time to be asking questions. Respectfully replying, "Yes, your grace, I will go right away." With the maid gone and only her left in the big empty room, Bai Rua simply couldn't conceal her sinister laugh anymore. So what if you are the main daughter of the Bai family? So what if you are the granddaughter of the Lan house? In the end your status, your position, your all belongs to me now. Even my son is now more noble than yours. This translation is only hosted on Catranslation. My son is not only the royal grandson of the king, he's also now the recipient of 1,000,000 worship from the animals. As for you, your reputation is in ruins and only infamy remains for you and your bastard child. Ha, ha ha ha. This life, you will never be able to compare with me. 5 years later. Somewhere on an island in the middle of a lake, there stood a dainty-looking cabin of bamboo construction with a woman inside. Asleep, the occupant was dazzling to the eye under the peeking glow from the window sill. Suddenly, the woman can feel a disturbance against her cheek. A fluffy tail. Fluttering her eyelids at first, she then shot them open to a frightful scene. Jumping up, the woman angrily calls out, "Bai Xiachen, you come out this instant." Filled with foxes in every nook and cranny, there are no room left to move inside this dainty little home. Even her body had been permeated with the stench of the animals. If you like this translation, consider donating for an extra release or simply turning off adblock helps too. The so-called father. 3. Old madam, you did not expect this girl to be even more stubbornly hateful after 6 years of absence. Immediately, she broke out into a cry. What have I done to deserve this, to have worried for this cold-hearted wolf for so many years? Zhengxiang, since your own daughter won't allow me to stay here, then should I leave? Bai Zhengxian had always been very filial towards this aunt of his to the point that it's no different from a biological mother. Therefore, hearing the old lady's crying voice, his temper immediately flared open. Kneel before your grandmother. He stomped at his daughter's knee in an attempt to make her bend, only to miss completely when Bai Yan sidestepped to one side. Coming up empty, the rage only grew doubled. Bai Yan, you don't have to apologize to me today. But no matter what, you must give your mother and grandmother here an apology. I want to see you kneeling on the floor until they forgive you. Bai Zhengxiang, if I say 6 years ago it's they who framed me and nearly sold me to the old chief of the Qian house as a concubine, would you still force me to apologize? That's deliberate. She wanted to see how ruthlessly cold this man can be and to what extent. But the reply Bai Yan got next only realized the old cruel saying of a stepdad will come once there's a stepmom. Bai Yan, oh Bai Yan, I am too disappointed in you. How can there be such a vicious person like you in this world? Yu Rong is so kind, yet you have the audacity to say she framed you. They loved you like their own daughter and granddaughter, but in the end you repay them with this ungrateful attitude. Bai Zhengxiang's eyes were full of disappointment. To tell the truth, when he heard Bai Yan had returned today, his heart did have a glimmer of hope. If only she kneeled and admitted her mistake, he would have forgiven her. Unexpectedly, this girl not only refused to repent, she also wants to frame others as an excuse. Someone come, go get me the disciplinary rod. His face dark as he sternly spoke, Bai Yan, I'm hitting you for your own good, otherwise you will never know how to repent. Bai Yan's gaze turned icy cold. I like to see who will dare touch me. Her imposing aura causes even the guards to stiffen up at the doorway, let alone Bai Zhengxiang that's closest to the epicenter of the pressure. The man almost couldn't breathe there for a moment. What are you people lagging there for? Go and get me the disciplinary rod. I'm going to teach this ungrateful girl a lesson today. Only after much struggle did he manage to shout this out. Just when the guard wanted to carry out the order by retreating, a snowy white-dressed boy blocks his path. Bai Xiao, why did come? The man was still angry, but his expression clearly became better upon the boy's entry into the hall. The youngster didn't reply, only walking silently inside to Bai Yan's side like his entire being was shrouded inside a layer of frost. You stated before that you would expel her from the Bai house. That means you can't use the family disciplines against her. Ever since her brother appeared again in her life, Bai Yan's gaze have never wavered by the boy's location. In her view, the young naive boy from back then had changed. He's colder, and more distant. If you like this translation, consider donating for an extra release or simply turning off adblock helps too. Visitor from the lawn house. So, Bai Xiao's gaze gradually turned cold, out of worry. Grandfather and uncle, they gave all of the precious Dan pills to mother. But then mother, she did the unthinkable and gave it all to father. In order to buy those Dan pills, the lawn house not only depleted their coffer, they also used many of their properties as collateral for the loans. If their uncle could have used those pills to make a breakthrough back then years ago, then the lawn house would never have fallen so far. In the end, they paid the high price only to benefit the heartless Bai Zhengxiang. And how did grandfather get sick recently? Bai Yan makes a slight frown as she asked this. When it came to this topic, Bai Zhao's face turned even colder to the point a flare of anger could be seen in the irises. Of course it's caused by Bai Zhengxiang. This time the boy didn't even use the word father and directly used the man's name, indicating how angry he was. This translation is only hosted on Catranslation. Ever since the death of our mother, grandfather's health has been getting worse and worse. Then 6 years ago you disappeared too, worsening his condition even more due to worry. Finally, some time ago our cousin, girl, got into a quarrel with Bai Ji. They both got hurt, but Bai Zhengxiang indiscriminately rushed over to the lawn house and made grandfather accountable for the incident. Unable to withstand the anger, he fainted away by the end of it. According to Bai Yan's memory, she remembers her grandfather was already in poor health when she left. If what Bai Xiao said was true, then these repeated blows to the spirit and mind can definitely cause enough harm to make the elder sick to the bed. Otherwise, Bai Zhengxiang wouldn't have the audacity to make trouble in the lawn house if grandfather was in perfect health. Considering the lawn house's wealth, purchasing some Dan pills shouldn't be an issue. So why did it take them so long to recover from that financial blow? Stroking her chin, Bai Yan finally revealed the doubt in her heart. Towards that question, Bai Xiao can only shake his head. The specifics are unknown to me. Why don't we go see grandfather and find out? Unlike back when they were young, Bai Xiao didn't continue to distance himself from the lawn house during these 6 years, rather he would often visit their grandmother daily. Okay, let's do that, Bai Yan nodded. As coincidental as it seems, just when they are about to head for the other place, the lawn house too sent a person over after getting wind of Bai Yan's return. At this very moment, an old granny sits in the main hall of the residence. Gently placing the teacup down, she spoke. My old madam is after all her maternal grandmother. Are you people so shameless that you are going to stop their reunion? Stern and strong in her voice, the old granny's statement causes Bai Zhengxiang to gently furrow his brow. Truthfully, it's as the old woman said. He does not want his children to mingle with the lawn house too much, or at all for that matter. Because of this issue, he had beaten Bai Xiao once before for visiting that side on a daily premise a while ago. Bai Yan has just returned. I fear she won't be able to leave with you for. Before he could even finish his last word, the magnificent figure in question had waltzed into the hall, pushing whatever he wanted to say back down his throat. This obviously left Bai Zhengxiang in a very embarrassing position. You were sent by our grandmother to pick me up? If so, then let us go. I wouldn't want her to wait. As if not seeing her father's very existence, Bai Yen bypasses the man and walks up to the old granny's side, startling the old woman in the process. This wasn't the first time this old granny of the lawn house had come to pick up the girl, but every time in the past she was firmly rejected, unlike today. So why the sudden change of heart? Bai Yen. Bai Jingxiang flew into a fit of rage. Don't forget, a married daughter is a splashed-out water. Your mother married me, so she is my wife. And you and Bai Xiao are of my blood, making the lawn house outsiders, you hear? Without my permission, you're not going anywhere. If you like this translation, consider donating for an extra release or simply turning off adblock helps too. Fourth grade Dan Pill, 1, Mother. At this moment the woman standing beside the old lady's side spoke up, her smile gentle and kind. Bai Yen had just returned, so it's best I go prepare the room instead. I fear the servants won't do a very good job. Okay Rulan, this matter will have to trouble you. The old lady turns around again. Bai Yen, this is your aunt. I speculate you aren't familiar with her yet since you haven't visited us over the years. You also have 3 other cousins, so I will introduce them when they come. Understanding this, Bai Yen promptly turns to Dong Rulan to meet the woman's friendly reception. Bai Yen, your grandfather must be losing his patience right now. First let me take you over to him. The old lady once again pats her hand to reassure the girl. Not saying anything extra, Bai Yen allowed her grandmother's trembling body to pull her inside the wing under the guidance of a maid. Currently inside, a sickly old man now leans against the wall behind the bed, his gaze glaring over to the side where a handsome man now stands. What, you want to see that stinking lass too? If so, then why aren't you scramming over there yet? My old bones here don't need you to look after me, humph. The man became somewhat embarrassed by the hollering. I am her uncle, and she is my niece. Now that my niece has returned after disappearing for so long, it's only natural that I go see her. Besides, who's the one that keeps peeking at the doorway after Granny's son took off? Ha! As if I would care about that blasted girl. Did you forget that girl never even came to visit our home nor see me all these years? And then she went and got herself pregnant before marriage. Okay, fine, even if the Bai house don't want her, then she could have came to us. It's not like our lawn house is so poor that we can't take care of a pair of orphans. But do you see what she did? She left without saying a word to us. The more he spoke, the more excited he became, to the point his old face started to flush red. Alarmed, the man on the side hurries over to soothe the old grandpa's back with his hand. Oh, what sort of wrong did I do in my past life to have both daughter and granddaughter do this to me? I will be in my grave because of them both at this rate. Father, you have to calm down. Out of worry that he might really lose it, Lan Yu attempts to comfort his old man. Sister was also deceived back then, that's why she lost her way. Although Bai Yen and I don't have much contact either, but I know enough about her personality that I can be certain she must have been framed by some evildoers. You just try to make excuses for her. The old lord of the house makes a heavy grunt, his eyes inadvertently moving to the doorway again. Hadn't Granny's son been at the Bai house for some time now? Why isn't the stinking girl here yet? My son, go over and check. Make sure those people don't bully the people of our lawn house. Clicking his tongue, Lan Yu was starting to worry for Bai Yen because not everyone can put up with this inconsistent attitude of his father here. I hope Bai Yen won't be frightened by that stubborn temperament. Just at this moment, Lan Yu's ear managed to pick up the happy conversing voice of both his mother from the outside. Father, Mother, and Bai Yen is here. Joy filled the man's eye as he said this. Although old Lord Lan's face was still the same, calm with a grumpy attitude, those shivering fingers easily gave away his true emotion. Retracting his gaze away from the doorway, he coldly grunts, so what if they came? Do you need to be so excited? Keep acting then. Lan Yu inwardly thought this about his father. No longer minding the inconsistent old bones behind him, Lan Yu left the bedside for the doorway to receive his niece and mother, only to be stopped by the maid who pushed open the doors in his face. "My lords, the old madam and Miss Bai is here." The maid respectfully announces this upon entry, totally unaware of the fact that he nearly slammed the door into the young lord's face. If you like this translation, consider donating for an extra release or simply turning off adblock helps too. Bai Zhao's shock, 2, meow. Little Rice protests with his voice. If he had known earlier the little owner would do this, he definitely wouldn't have followed along. "Say it, tell me what's going on. I want to hear the truth." Bai Yan frowns. Although she didn't say she had forgiven the two troublemakers, but that tone definitely sounded less harsh. "It's because those people bullied you all those years ago." Bai Xiachen throws himself into Bai Yan's bosom, his eyes tearful and heartwarming. "Mother, I didn't deliberately disobey you, I only wanted to get even with those people for you." Hearing this explanation, she can only exhale a sigh of gratification at this son of hers. To have such a clever and sensible son, what more can a mother ask for? "And," the boy lifts his head to meet hers, "that Bai Ji said she wants to strangle me." "What?" Jolting up from the stone stool, Bai Yan immediately slammed the table with her hand and destroyed it until it's nothing but rubble. This translation is only hosted on Catranslation. Watching this from the side, Bai Xiao was left completely stunned for words. First looking at the crumbling mess on the floor, then back at the enraged face of his sister's face, he couldn't resist making a heavy gulp at that moment. When did sister get so strong? A strong urge tells him Bai Ji had just made a big mistake this time. "I can still slowly get even with Bai Ji for bullying me back then, but now she dares threaten to strangle my son." Her face still boiling. "Brother, go take trip to the Lan house and tell our grandfather he must invite the Bai house to the banquet in the coming day. My son isn't someone that can easily be bullied." Nodding in confusion, Bai Xiao had obviously been overly shocked by that palm strike just now. After saying this, Bai Yan forcibly suppresses her anger and lifts the little treasure up from her arms. "Did that Bai Ji hurt you anywhere?" "Don't worry," the boy pats his chest in assurance, "I'm very capable. Even if there's 10 Bai Ji, they can't beat me." Bai Yan knows her son was spouting the truth. In fact, she can guess the instigator of today's scuffle likely fell on this little troublemaker. However, that doesn't excuse that girl from bullying her son. "Mother, can I go to my grandfather's place?" Looking at those twinkling eyes, Bai Yan was ready to give in and agree until the dangerous and dominating face of that man reappeared in her head. "Not right now. In the future, I will bring you to see your grandfather." The man had a high probability of being her son's father. As such, she can't allow her son to appear in public just yet. "Oh," Bai Xiachen bites his lip and depressingly lowered that head of his. Watching the pitiful face of her son there, even her heart was aching in pain. However, no matter the strong impose to say yes, she resists and continues to keep her stance. "I promise you I will take you to see your grandparents very soon. But first, go wash your face for now, okay?" "Okay." Quickly reverting back to his cheeky little self, Bai Xiachen releases the most friendly smile a child can make. Turning to Little Rice, he makes a grab at that tail. "Look at you, all dirty and stuff. A good kitty needs to be clean, otherwise mother will be angry at us." "Meow. I don't want a bath, absolutely not." Little Rice. Stabbing his fists against his waist, Bai Xiachen puffs his cute little cheeks in an unhappy fashion. Not yielding, Little Rice makes a jump for the nearby tree and proudly makes a humph sound, refusing to come down again. Looking at the baby tiger there on the branch, Bai Yan suddenly got a new idea. Smiling, "Son, go wash your face first. I have other things I need Little Rice to do for me first." If you like this translation, consider donating for an extra release or simply turning off adblock helps too. Dinner Banquet 4. Raising her head, Bai Ruo's gaze looked a little tense after the statement. Your Highness wishes to see Bai Yan? I guess so, she is after all the most beautiful woman in our kingdom. If you wish to take her as your consort then I have no objection. My love, you are too kind. Aching inside, Nan Gongyi lovingly gives her a kiss on the forehead. Don't worry, a woman that has lost their chastity can never come into my eye. I only want to go check on her condition. After so many years out there alone, she must have lost her glory and is now a shadow of her former self. Bai Yan back may be thin, but not the sallow kind with a scrawny body. On the contrary, she was very beautiful with a healthy gloss to her skin. This translation is only hosted on Catranslation however, over these years she had been caring for a child all alone out there. With such miserable living conditions, even a beauty will wither away normally. Comforted by that statement, Bai Ruo revealed an accepting smile. Then I will wait for your return. Giving one last peck on her cheek, Nan Gongyi climbs out of their bed under the shy look of his wife. Someone come, prepare a sedan for me. I'm going to make a visit to the lawn house. The reasoning why I didn't get an invite must be because they didn't want Bai Yan to reignite her flame. If so, then all the more reason why I must go visit. I will make Bai Yan understand the price of betraying me. The Lawn Manor. Outside the main gate, countless luxurious carriages are now parked there on the road. Ever since old Lord Lan became sick, it's been a long time since the lawn house became this lively. These guests aren't really here to join in on the feast though, more like here to see a show and make fun of the host. At the moment, in the back of the main hall, 3 individuals were busy looking at the doorway with their curious eyes. Not long after, a stunning red figure stepped into their line of sight, wowing their senses with her beauty. My dear, you've come. Old Madame Lan softly pats the couch in front, indicating the girl to come sit. Not being sentimental, Bai Yan gracefully enters and sat right next to her grandmother. Come, let me introduce you, patting her hand, this older one is your big cousin, male, Lan Xiaoling, 20-something. And the younger one over there similar to your age is Lan Xiaoyan, male. The 2 of them were away, that's why you didn't meet them until today. As for the young one there, she's your cousin Lan Xiaoyun. Due to an injury from before, the girl had been staying at the outskirt of the city at her insistence for healing. Making a faint smile, Lan Xiaoling protests, Grandma, you didn't need to give so much detail you know. Although our cousin here doesn't communicate with our family much, but we are still family. There's no way she wouldn't have heard of us. Ha, you are right, I forgot. Old Madame Lan laughs joyfully, oh my dear, I've been foolish. Making a smile, Bai Yan didn't say much because in her mind she did have a decent grasp on the lawn house's situation. The only thing lacking was meeting everyone in person. If you like this translation, consider donating for an extra release or simply turning off adblock helps too. Stunning. 1. All eyes are on the door now inside the banquet hall. Why is the sovereign prince also here? This is just a banquet for an unclean person. Bai Ji, who was standing beside her father Bai Zhengxiang, turned white after getting hit with this bombshell news. Though the young girl's whispering voice remained very low, but due to eerie silence in the atmosphere, it became quite abrupt among the guests. Turning gloomy in the face, Lan Yu sent a cold glare at the girl before turning his line of sight back to the doorway. At this moment, whether it be the guests or the prince, everyone that's in attendance were in amazement by what they saw. Hanging high above the dark night, a moon brighter than everything else in the sky highlighted that eye-catching object. Bang! In one loud boom, several silvery wolves pulling a magnificent throne swiftly lands in the middle of the hall, sending the awestruck guests running for cover by the abrupt sound. This translation is only hosted on Catranslation carefree with his arms lazily leaning against the handles. That slightly exposed chest was absolutely sinful in how seductive they were. Then there's also that handsome and captivating face, intoxicating. This should have been a bloodthirsty man that warrants fear in life, yet it's also this type that makes the female sex heads over heels for him. Like moths diving into a flame, though deadly yet willing. Your Highness. Lan Yu didn't give the same cold shoulder as he did to the crown prince, rather his tone was respectful and welcoming to the man. It's a great pleasure that our Lan house can have the honor of hosting you tonight. Seeing this extreme difference in treatment, Nan Gongyi's expression became distorted due to anger. He's the real royalty here, not that man with a mere title. Standing up from his throne, Di Tsang slowly dismounted and left his ride to its own bidding. Like a set of well-trained dogs, these wolves rapidly departed the hall by taking to the air instead of over the wall like their entry. Gasping, the crowd couldn't move their sight from the sky for a good while. Those are demon beasts. They all knew Di Tsang was very powerful, but never in their minds did they expect something so impacting. I heard the Lan house is hosting a reception banquet for someone from the Bai house. Cold in his gaze, he sweeps his eyes across the crowd. So, I'm curious, why is this feast hosted by the Lan house instead of the Bai house? Your Highness. This time it was Bai Zhengxiang who spoke up first without waiting for Lan Yu to explain. This you don't know. My Bai house treated that ungrateful girl with all our heart, giving everything that's good to her. Even my current wife looks to the girl as her own flesh and blood. Yet, that ungrateful girl announced she will denounce our father-daughter relationship after I said a few scolding words, claiming she will return to the Lan house. Hearing the story from the man himself, the crowd clearly became a little riled up by the half-baked details. This Bai Yan is really a heartless girl. It's bad enough she eloped with another man back then, causing her grandmother to faint in the street. Now she's even denouncing her own father. If I had such a daughter, I too would want to strangle her to death. Madame Bai is truly kind. I heard she doted on this daughter more than her own true blood. But instead of getting gratitude in return, this heartless girl would slander her own stepmother's name. What a vicious girl. If you like this translation, consider donating for an extra release or simply turning off adblock helps too. This is the type that I like. 3. Everyone was dumbfounded. Even Bai Yan herself was stunned. It can't be, this man is the infamous sovereign prince of the kingdom. In a blink of an eye, Di Tsang had already began closing the distance between him and her. Seeing the encroaching figure coming their way, Lan Shaoling and his brother subconsciously wanted to pull their cousin behind them for protection. Sadly, their actions were too late. Tightly gripping his hands around her waist, Bai Yan's last chance for escape was sealed off for good. You really made it difficult for me to find you. His tone threatening yet alluring all at the same time. What the man was referring to was how he was forcefully raped by her back then, but to the rest of the audience here tonight, those words had a completely different meaning. Scram! Bai Yan became angry now. In one stomp, she aims it straight for the man's feet like last time. Just as it's about to make contact, a powerful hand caught it, forcing her into the most embarrassing posture like a pair of intimate dancers. To make things worse, those naughty fingers continued to stroke her thigh, giving her goosebumps left and right. Your little feet here is so restless. From those bloodthirsty eyes, a cruel smile appears. I say, should I chop it off? This translation is only hosted on Patranslation. His threatening tone was very gentle, thus giving off the misconception that he's trying to flirt with Bai Yan. Blankly watching Di Tsang's devilish smile, a trickle of tear began flowing out of Bai Ji's eye in silence. Ji. Seeing her precious daughter silently weeping there alone, Bai Zhengxiang can feel his very heart tearing itself. Returning his anger back at the source, he speaks in an interrogating tone. Bai Yan, what are you doing in public? Do you have no shame? Turning dark, she sweeps her sight around at the man and girl. Seeing the jealousy in Bai Ji's eye, a flicker of triumphant grin fills Bai Yan's peerless face. Isn't it clear enough on what we are doing? Pricking her brow, she provocatively slides her finger under the man's chin. Little Tsang Tsang, do you agree with what I say? Little Tsang Tsang. This name clearly made Di Tsang's lip twitch. Nevertheless, The abrupt change in attitude only stirred his appetite and raised his interest. Grabbing that teasing finger, Di-sung turns to face the distorted man in the background. It can't be Lord Bai is blind? Can't you see when it's that obvious? Father. Look at her. Baiji's face was ghastly white now as tears flowed out of jealous eye. She's doing it on purpose. Indeed, Bai Yan was doing this on purpose. In order to frustrate the shameless girl, she's even willing to sacrifice her own skin to reach her goal. Your Highness. Suppressing his inner wrath, Bai Zhengxiang lowers himself before the man known as the Sovereign Prince. I'm sure you also heard of my eldest daughter's character. She got herself pregnant before marriage and even eloped 6 years ago. Such a person isn't worthy to be by your side, so you mustn't be fooled. This statement thoroughly enraged the members of the Lan House. It's already bad enough he let Bai Ruo replace Bai Yan in marrying the crown prince of the kingdom, plus he even expelled her from his family. Now he's also slandering the girl. Is this the kind of stuff a father's supposed to do? Just as old Lord Lan wanted to go duke it out with the bastard, Di-sung's aloof voice chimed in, so what? This is the type that I like. The crowd all gasped in unison, utterly shocked by the sensational statement. This is the type that he likes. In other words, Lord Song has a fetish of liking young unmarried women that's given birth before. Oh heavens! No wonder all those excellent girls cannot fall into his eye, it's because of this strange fetish. If you like this translation, consider donating for an extra release or simply turning off adblock helps too. Be good, don't move, too, you are lying. Baiji's sadness quickly eased over despite her claim of loving Di-sung. My mother wanted to give you jewelry to wear, but it's you who refused it. Now you are twisting the truth to suit yourself. Smirking at the audacity of the girl, she glares back with danger in her eye. If that's the case. Grandfather, please bring out the paperwork that you filed for the dowry back then. According to the rules, if the mother dies, her dowry must be passed on to her biological daughter as inheritance. Now that I'm an adult, it's only proper that I take back what's mine. It's common practice in this world for men to take on multiple wives, therefore it's not uncommon to find a husband ignoring their original wife for a new one. In order not to let the wife's property fall into the wrong hands, a law was eventually passed, stating whatever dowry that's left behind must be given to their biological child for management. This translation is only hosted on Catranslation. Upon hearing this remark, Bai Zhengxiang and his precious daughter Baiji both went ghostly white. Alright. Making a humph sound, old Lord Lan happily answers the call. Your mother's dowry was all listed at the etiquette department prior to the marriage. When it's ready, I will personally go to the Bai house to retrieve what's yours, my dear. This certainly left the heartless man in a bind. This wretched girl must do this to me. Those dowries have all been spent, where am I supposed to find them again? Bai Yan. Nangong Yi can't watch anymore. Showing disgust in his eye, he eyed the woman that used to be his fiancée. Lord Bai is still your father and it was you who made the first move. Don't you feel your actions are too much right now? Even if the Bai Yan back then was considered a useless person who can't cultivate, but at least her character was good. Now she's not only arrogant and rude, she's also entangled with Di-sung the sovereign prince. Such a dirty woman, no matter how beautiful, he won't bother to take another glance. I only want to take back my dowry, how is that being too much? Can it be your highness don't recognize the rules set by the ancestors? Bai Yan casts a short glance at the prince, her tone practically emotionless that it stings. Fuming at the snub, Nangong Yi didn't know how to talk back right now. There's no way he can openly admit he's not willing to recognize the long-standing rule. But watching that arrogant attitude of the woman, his heart can't accept it. Bai Yan, Lord Bai and Madame Bai's character are very good, so there's no way they would misappropriate your dowry. On the contrary, if they do give it to you, won't it be just wasted away on another man? Gnashing his teeth, Now it's Nan Gongyi's turn to become shameless because his sentence was indirectly telling Di Tsang how horrible Bai Yan's character was. Chuckling, Bai Yan scoffs it off perfectly. He's a man that relied on a woman to get started and then turn tail as soon as he's successful. Even then you say his character is trustworthy? Are you listening to yourself? Bai Yan, when did you become so nitpicky? Nan Gongyi shakes his head like someone truly disappointed. If you kneel in front of Lord by this instant and apologize, perhaps he will forgive you for all your fault. At this moment, without any indication, a powerful hand suddenly came from behind and mercilessly pulled Bai Yan in. How come I didn't know my woman would be reduced to bowing before an ant? That cold and tyrannical voice echoes across the banquet hall, sending the entire audience into utter silence once again. Being looked down upon in a condescending way, Nan Gongyi's face tensed up until even his veins could be seen. Dicng. Not replying, Di Tsang only sent a glance back his way. In that second, the oppressive aura was so strong that the prince nearly suffocated. Be good, don't move. Sensing the woman in his embrace being bad again, he tightens his grip and gently whispered into her ear, "It'd be a shame for your delicate hands to be chopped off." Bai Yan was so frustrated and angry right now. No matter what she did, this man would either say he will chop off her leg or her hand. It's like he's treating her as a little pet that he can do as he wish. If you like this translation, consider donating for an extra release or simply turning off adblock helps too. Face slapping. 3. So what if it's a sky-class demon bird? Father, aren't you also the same, a sky-class martialist? Why can't you subdue it? Bai Ji bites her lip, unable to divert her gaze away from the beautiful phoenix. If she could control it, the whole city would become envious of her. Ji, stop your fussing. Contrary to his usual indulgent attitude, Bai Zhengxiang was rather stern this time around. Going dark in the face, that's a demon bird, not something you can control, so don't irritate it. Sad inside, Bai Ji didn't want to accept this reality but couldn't do anything to remedy the situation. Ignoring the crowd, the searing flame phoenix makes a low bird call and then slowly walked towards Bai Yan with elegance and pride. This naturally caught the attention of everyone. Their gaze firmly pinned to the flaming red figure and the woman that's waiting. This translation is only hosted on Catranslation, Grandfather. Giving the phoenix only one glance, Bai Yan shifts her attention back to the old grandpa. Do you like this gift I prepared for you? Silence hanged over the banquet hall. If a needle were to drop to the floor right now, it would definitely be heard. Hesitant in his voice, old Lord Lan looks to the girl. The gift is. It can't be this searing flame phoenix. No. No way. For a minute there, everyone here was coming up with this idea. However, it was firmly pushed back down. Who's Bai Yan? A useless woman who got pregnant and eloped with a man. With her ability, how can she subdue a sky-class demon beast? Under the signaling look of Bai Yan, the bird begins to lower its proud head and prostrated itself before the old lord. This was the custom of the phoenix race. If a member of the phoenix race were to ever surrender itself before another being, they will lower their head and prostrate themselves on the ground. This proves they are willing to become their mount. Roughly rubbing her eyes, Bai Ji couldn't believe the scene. Clenching her fist into a hard ball, she nearly bit through her lips from how angry she was. Lan Yu's breathing became a little tense. This searing flame phoenix is your grandfather's gift? That's not your average demon beast out there, it's a sky-class searing flame phoenix. Even in the demon beast sect, there's only a few that could subdue such a being. If the Lan family can get their hands on this phoenix, that would mean they will once again break into the first-rate noble family class. Confirming it with Bai Yan didn't beat around the bush. Grandfather is getting old, so in order to make traveling easier for him, I specifically prepared this phoenix for him. This way he won't have to walk so much. Nearly everyone were gasping for air, some were even twitching in the eye at the explosive statement. Too old. Inconvenient when traveling. This old lord looks absolutely fantastic. Which part of that looks old? And don't you think it's too extravagant to use a phoenix as a ride? Father. Seeing the prostrating bird before old Lord Lan, Baiji's jealousy completely twisted her. Didn't you say all demon beasts are arrogant and proud? Why is it willing to submit to Bai Yan? Ignoring the girl's questioning, Bai Zhengxiang only looked towards Bai Yan with his gloomy face. You did this on purpose, didn't you? Deliberately hiding away this phoenix so I would drive you away from the Bai house. If you like this translation, consider donating for an extra release or simply turning off ad block helps too. Go do a big thing, 1, Ji, let's go. A vague gleam could be seen coming off of Bai Zhengxiang's eye. Bai Yan, if I learn this is all a lie then I won't let you off. Leaving this threat behind, he forcibly pulls at his unwilling daughter and out they went. This Bai Zhengxiang bastard really think I'm so old that he can do whatever he likes. Old Lord Lan clearly didn't finish venting his steam, and you, don't think I will forgive you just because you are giving me this searing flame phoenix. As soon as Bai Yan retracted her sight from the doorway, she immediately heard this out of the blue grumpy scolding and became stupefied. Grandfather, what have I done wrong? Glaring with one eye and squinting with the other, the old lord kept huffing and puffing like he will blow the whole place down. If you are hungry then why didn't you come over here? Am I not your grandfather? Am I not your mother's father? How can you let those from the Bai family bully you like that? Utterly speechless, Bai Yan can only stand there and silently take it. Not like she can openly tell everyone the one from back then wasn't her. Lan Yu. Without indication, this time the roaring yell was directed at his son. Freaking out on the spot, Lan Yu himself practically crawled over to his father on the knees. Lord Father, is there something wrong? Making a flattering face, he cautiously asks with the brightest smile he can make. Not biting the bait, old Lord Lan grumpily points at the squeamish man. This is how you look after your sister's children. This is how you run the Lan house after I became sick. This translation is only hosted on Catranslation. For a while there, old Lord Lan became so angry that he didn't know what to say to this useless son, and you can't inquire about the situation some more. Ever since his sister Lan Yu, the mother, passed away, his father here had taken to the bed since. Therefore, the entire well-being of the Lan house fell onto him. Over the years he kept thinking that Bai Zhengxiang would at least be grateful for their support at the beginning. As such, he never expected the siblings to be so mistreated there. That's definitely his mistake. What are you still standing there for? In one fit, old Lord Lan sends a kick right up the son's butt. Hurry and go prepare. From today forward, as long as there's my Lan house in this Lu Hua kingdom then there won't be a Bai house. Good timing for this declaration too. After this incident tonight, the guests here will undoubtedly start reconsidering their stance on the competition between these two families. Years ago the Lan house only fell into its current low state due to the old lord becoming sick. But now, old Lord Lan's not only safe and sound, he also got a sky-class demon bird as his mount. This instantly propelled their family back into the first-rate noble family league. However, the Bai house also has a crown princess as their daughter. That's something the Lan house can't compare with. Don't take it for face value that Ditsang would favor Bai Yan. There's no way the royal family would allow someone unclean like her to marry the sovereign prince. Furthermore, it's rumored that His Majesty intends to marry the youngest daughter of the Bai house to Ditsang. Bai Yan, where did you get this searing flame phoenix from? Old Madame Lan gently holds onto her granddaughter's hand, her mouth a heartwarming smile. I saved its life before, that's why it submitted to me. And since its grandfather's birthday, I decided to give it as a gift. That sort of story was more plausible. There's no way Bai Yan can possibly subdue a sky-class phoenix. Also, it's said that demon beasts are easy to be thankful if their lives are saved, which made perfect sense here for the guests and the Lan family members. Cousin. Grinning the entire way, Lan Xiaoyun used the sweetest voice in the world. My birthday is coming soon. When will you go save some more demon beasts to give me? If you like this translation, consider donating for an extra release or simply turning off ad block helps too. Go do a big thing, too. Bai Yan didn't even need to think about it. Nodding, she answered outright, alright, what sort of demon beast would you like? Fox, I like foxes. They are furry and cute. Fox? That's easy. Sweetly smiling, when it's time I will have the foxes ready and you can choose from the batch. There are too many foxes around her son, so it's good to have the girl pick one among the followers. The careless remark from her definitely made waves among her family, but Deetsong on the other hand had other ideas in mind. Tightening his lips into a bloodthirsty grin, he looks to Bai Yan like a winner inside a battle. This translation is only hosted on Catranslation without deviating from the expected outcome. Bai Yan herself also noticed her own folly here after seeing that gaze. Shit! How did I forget he's still there? Fox? Just as Bai Yan was trying to come up with a countermeasure, the man had already come up from behind. Cold and numbing, that whispering voice in her ear instantly gave her goosebumps. I'm also looking forward to seeing those foxes. Slightly losing her composure, she wanted to say more but was interrupted by a loud bang. In the middle of the hall, the same silvery wolves as well as that throne was there again. Walking over in big strides, Deetsong ignored everyone and took his seat. Like how he came before, he disappeared into the night sky in the same manner. Cousin, how did you and Lord Sung meet? Lan Xiaoyun, girl cousin, became very excited, her expression a bit naughty, that Baiji's been dreaming of becoming the man's wife for so long. To see her eat a bad one here tonight, it's so satisfying. In particular was the picture of Deetsong embracing Bai Yan. For some unknown reason, the girl found the two very suitable for each other. Uncle, did my brother not show up for tonight's banquet? Bai Yan turns to Lan Yu and asked. A bit startled, the man nods, that's right, he didn't show up. Slightly wrinkling her brow, Bai Yan knows her brother's character enough that he won't miss this important occasion. It can't be, something's happened. Uncle, can you send someone to inquire about his condition? I still have something to do. Okay, he nods. But what do you need to do? An evil smile came as a result of that question. Turning to her younger cousin Lan Xiaoyun, Bai Yan asks, do you want to come do something big with me? Exalted by the question, the girl squeals with excitement, yes. I want to come along. Let's go cousin, I want to. Let's go then. Pulling the girl's hand, Bai Yan moved swiftly across the streets. During this hour it's already considered quite late for the night. Nevertheless, there remains a certain figure out and about. This was none other than Baiji that's currently kicking the pebbles on the floor. Whenever she thought of the scene with Deetsong and Bai Yan tonight, her heart would be panged with jealousy. It's almost like thousands of ants were biting in her heart. Then at this moment, she suddenly saw another figure standing under the moonlight up ahead. Bai Yan. Taking advantage of the glow of the moon, she now got a better look at that hateful face. Gnashing her teeth, why are you here? What you should care about isn't why I am here, it's whether or not you can safely return to your home. Slow and steady in her advancement, Bai Yan's smiling face became intimidating and dangerous. Bai Yan, what are you trying to do? Stepping backward, she gulped. For some unknown reason, a sense of dread and fear gripped Baiji's heart right now. If you like this translation, consider donating for an extra release or simply turning off ad block helps too. Flower Brothels Hua Luo, cousin, Lan Xiaoyun nervously tugs at Bai Yan's sleeve. Who is this woman? Is she here to seek you? She didn't answer the question, only smiling at the newcomer. Hua Luo, you seem to be late. Ho ho ho, giggling at the remark, the woman jumps off the eagle in one smooth swing. I met a little trouble on the road, that's why I'm late. But mistress, who is this girl here, your sister? She's not bad, why not let her come to my flower brothel for work? How about it? Those winking eyes could literally discharge electricity from how foxy they were. Even for Lan Xiaoyun, who's a girl, her skin was going all goosebump on her. Cousin, grouchily sending a stare over to the provocative woman, she asks, who is she, and what is? This translation is only hosted on Catranslation. Lan Xiaoyun wanted to say flower brother in the end, but her hands reflexively cupped her own mouth to keep it in. That flower brothel? Hua Luo, Xiaoyun is still a child, you mustn't scare her. Bai Yan didn't get angry at the little tease. She knew long ago this subordinate of hers would be like this. Besides, she's not the type to suppress her people's true nature, that's not her style. Mistress, I'm only playing with her a little. Giggling again, she sends a charming smile at that little face hiding behind Bai Yan. No matter how courageous I am, I would never dare do something as to send your cousin there to receive clients. Flower brother, on the surface it's a place where men could to play with women if they have the money, but in reality, it's an intelligence agency. Even now, no other forces out there know exactly how much information this power has in its vault. This fact was no secret among the powerful forces out there in these lands. Rather, it's the ordinary folks who have clue about this organization and continues to take it as nothing more than a brothel. Therefore, as the young miss of the Lan house, she's not new to this name. Cousin, she is someone from the flower brothel? Really, that flower brothel? Lan Xiaoyun pulls at Bai Yan's sleeve, her lips trembling as she asked, why would she be calling you mistress? There's no mistake, she's the keeper of the flower brothel, Hua Luo. Bai Yan didn't deny it. Due to the extreme shock of the news, Lan Xiaoyun nearly fainted on the spot. Never in her dreams did she expect the true master behind the flower brothel would be her own cousin here. Oh heavens, is there anything in this world more explosive and sensational? Cousin, hurry and tell me, how did you become the master of the flower brothel? They are an entity that can stand up to the royal family, a power that can crush the Bai family. Flushed red from being overexcited, the girl nearly couldn't breathe there. If this matter becomes known to grandfather, it's likely he will faint from excitement. I will tell you later about that. Making a faint smile, Bai Yan shifts her gaze back to Hua Luo. There is one thing I want you to do. As soon as she heard Bai Yan was getting down to business, Hua Luo's expression turned serious. Mistress, please instruct me. I suspect my mother's death must have something to do with Yu Rong. You are to thoroughly investigate this matter. In addition, you are to find out the activities of every member of the Bai house over these years, cold in her gaze, including Yu Rong's history before she married into the Bai family. Raising her head in surprise, Hua Luo looks to the woman she calls mistress and found a chill running down her back. The Bai family has done too many evil things over the years. Even if I destroy them now, it won't be enough to make up for their sins. I must ruin their reputation so they can never stand up again. If you like this translation, consider donating for an extra release or simply turning off adblock helps too. Xiaochen searches for uncle. Inside the ancestral hall of the Bai house, Bai Xiao was currently leaning against the wall behind him as a burning flame courses through his body. Little Rice, I think this is where uncle is being kept. Let's go inside and see. From outside the door, a young tender voice drifts inside this quiet building. Bai Xiao wanted to call out, but by the time he opened his mouth, nothing came out due to how parched his throat was. Creak. The door to the ancestral hall slides open, catching the attention of the barely conscious occupant inside. From his narrow eyelids, the young lad can see his precious nephew standing there looking at him. Uncle. Upon seeing the young man lying there on the ground, the little boy rushes inside with his white kitty. Plopping to the floor, the first thing Bai Zaken attempts to do was to touch his uncle's forehead only to be shocked by the heat. Oh no, you have a fever. This translation is only hosted on Catranslation, although a martialist definitely had a stronger body with a better immune system, but that doesn't mean they won't get sick. I'm okay, That voice was harsh and dry. Likely afraid his nephew would be worried for him, Bai Xiao barely manages to force a smile. Xiaochen, how did you get in here? Mother is worried about you, so she had little Rice come find you. However, I miss you too, so I came along. From beginning to end, Bai Xiaochen's small little hand had never stopped moving. Sorting through his deep pocket, he brought out a pile of small bottles and jars, all of which are filled with Dan pills of various effects. I'm sorry, uncle, but I didn't learn any medical skills from mother. I don't know which of these can cure you. Since childhood he only had interest in poison. As for the methods of saving others, he honestly didn't have a clue. Maybe, a glow fills the boy's eye as he raises his head. Maybe you can try them all. This is, looking down at the indicated containers, doubt could be seen in Bai Xiao's gaze. Still as innocent and bright as ever, these are mine and little Rice's snack collection. Mother prepared them for us. Snacks? Looking at that small delicate face, a current of warmth filled Bai Xiao's heart. There's no need, you two keep it for yourself, okay? In that instant, disappointment promptly replaced that smile. I thought uncle would definitely like my snacks because my 3 grandchiefs would always fight over them. Twitching in the mouth, Bai Xiao thought he was hallucinating there for a moment. Fight for some snacks. How old are they to do something so childish? Dummy little master, little Rice makes a disdainful look. Do you think humans are all like us, able to eat Dan pills like snacks? If you have him take all of these, then watch him explode. Blinking his innocent eye, the boy clearly didn't get it. I am mother's son and uncle is mother's brother, why can't he eat them like us? Rolling his tiger eyes at the ridiculous question, little Rice went ahead to ignore the child and began rummaging through the bottles with his claw. A short moments later, he found a certain bottle and hands it to Bai Xiao. If you take one, then your cold will be better. In honest truth, Bai Xiao was a little frightened because this was the first time he's ever heard of someone using Dan pills to treat a cold. But looking at that anticipating eye of his nephew, he can't bear to disappoint the child. Uncorking the container, he carefully pours the content out. If you like this translation, consider donating for an extra release or simply turning off adblock helps too. Revenge for Mother, 3, Ah. Catching onto Yurong's hair, the fox's claw went deep, so deep that it even ripped out a portion of her scalpel skin. This instantly causes the woman to scream with pain. You little beast, how dare you hurt me? In her fit of rage, the panicking woman makes an attempt to swipe at her attacker to knock it off. Not missing the danger coming its way, the fox immediately swung to the side and escaped the hand, all the while not forgetting to make a mocking face at its victim. This of course causes Yurong to go green with rage. Someone come catch this stinking fox. Wiping the seeping blood from her scalp, she yelled in frustration. It didn't take long, merely seconds, for a group of guards to rush inside. Swish! Knowing it's time to bolt, the fox makes an outstanding somersault into the air and attempts to make one final landing on Yurong's face. Thankfully for the woman herself, her reflexes are relatively fast. Otherwise, she could have expected some serious scars on this swipe. Even so, one of her hands had become a bloody mess after she used it to take the hit. This translation is only hosted on Catranslation. Kill this thing. Kill it. Became twisted in her expression, she glared daggers at the menacing fox. But it's already too late. Before the guards could even make a grab for it, the fox had jumped right out the window and disappeared into the darkness of the night. You bunch of useless things. How can you not catch a single fox? In her moment, she heavily stomps at one of the guards. It's unsure if it's her illusion or not, but right now the backside of her hand felt very itchy due to the scratch. Enough, this can't be blamed on the guards here. It's all that fox's fault. Old Madam Yu frowns with a strange light in her eye. However, since it's here, it won't be able to escape so easily considering how big our estate is. Have our people fan out and search. Yes, madam, the guards lowered their heads and respectfully complied. As soon as the guards retreated, the old woman promptly shifted her gaze back at her daughter. Did you forget what I told you before? No matter how dissatisfied you are, you cannot show it in front of the public. But the fox is too vexing. Just the thought of that little thing was enough to make her veins pop. Furthermore, the itch on the back of her hand was starting to get worse. At this rate, she might even scratch the skin off. Don't worry, it won't be able to escape our grasp. Old Madame Yu smiles sinisterly because nothing has ever escaped her will when she wanted them. The Bai house was so, and so was Lan Yue's dowry. Just as old Madame Yu was scheming again by Xiaochen, the little boy was already running towards the location where he hid little rice. At this moment, the baby tiger was in the middle of licking his paws on the grass in an elegant fashion. Seeing the rushing figure coming his way, he asked, "Is everything done?" That bad woman is scheming against uncle, she also called mother a bitch. Raising his silver fur, the bloodthirsty nature of his lineage could already be heard in his angry voice. Blinking at the remark, little Rice tilted his head in confusion. Since when did the little owner here get so nice to let those people off the hook? Likely becoming aware of the tiger's question. Bai Xiaochen giggles with delight. Did you forget already? I only have interest in poisoning people. Just now, I used some of my stuff on her body. If you like this translation, consider donating for an extra release or simply turning off adblock helps too. Kick him. But, innocently tilting his little head, the bad woman can find someone else to make a baby, why can't mother do it too? Wang Xiaopeng from next door has a little sister, I also want one. Wang Xiaopeng? Who? Bai Yan asked. They live next door. Their family has a lot of money, that's why Wang Xiaopeng can be so fat. Note, Wand is the surname and Xiaopeng little chubby in Chinese. After a brief musing, Bai Yan understood what's going on now. This neighbor the boy's referring to wasn't from the Holy Land, it's the family living next door to the manor she prepared here in the city. Don't assume just because Bai Xiaochen's intelligence was higher than a normal person that he can ignore the things a child should do. He needs friends around his age to play with. Oh baby. Picking up her son, she hugs the little fella and runs her fingers around the nose as a tease. One can't just make a sister because they want to, these things need fate. You are still young so you don't know. Wait until you grow up some more, then you will get it. This translation is only hosted on Catranslation in response, Bai Xiaochen nods like he understands. He may be envious of his newfound friend Wang Xiaopeng for having a lovely little sister, but in comparison, he rather listened to his mother's word over having a sister. Then can we go find father? If father wants to take me away, can you also come with us? If they find father then a sister will just be a matter of time. But what if your father only wants you and not your mother? The arrival of little Bai Xiaochen wasn't of love, it's the result of an accident when she needed a man to cure her poison. Stunned by the question, Bai Xiaochen realized he never once thought of this issue. Going quiet, the little boy went into deep contemplation, as deep as a child can go anyways. Then after a good few minutes, his big eyes literally glowed with brilliance. Mother is so good so father can't possibly do that. But if he does, then I also don't want him. Squirming closer against her mother's chest, he tightly weaves his hands around her neck. In this world, he can lose everything except his mother here. Getting such affection from her son like so, Bai Yan unconsciously broke out into a gratifying smile. In this life and her previous one she has done a lot of things she regretted, but giving birth to this child was not one of them. Suddenly, the evening breeze whistled into her nose and she could smell a certain familiar scent. Going ghastly white in the face, she jolted up from the chair and quickly brought out a pill. This pill can cover your aura. Swallow it now and hide under the bed. Remember, no matter what happens you mustn't come out. Before the boy could even get a grasp on the situation, his mother had already forced the pill down his throat and stuffed him under the bed. In the next moment, a dazzling figure popped in. Baby doesn't like the father. Sung's gaze remains unmoved from those lips. His deep voice sounded like he's suppressing some sort of emotion. You're hurt, why didn't you say anything? The glaring blood stain only made his heart ache like it's been torn apart. Have you given me the opportunity to say? Bai Yen sneered. Her lips been blocked by him, so how was she supposed to tell him? Moreover, even if she did say it, would he have relented? Bai Yen. Sung approached again, his voice hoarse as he spoke. You still owe me 9 kisses. I will take them back one at a time. Immediately widening her eyes, her tone sounded angry. I only kissed you once and you want 10 in return. Aren't you being too much? As if unaware of her wrathful voice, Sung turns to leaves, disappearing into the night sky without leaving any traces of his presence. This translation is only hosted on Catranslation with the man gone. Bai Xiachen promptly scurried himself out of the bed. First patting away the dust, he then rushes up to his mother's side. Mother, is he my father? The little guy's milky voice pulled Bai Yen back to her sense. Oh my baby, you are wrong. That man isn't your father. Mother is lying. Bulging in his cheeks, he looks like a steaming meat bun at this moment. He's clearly my father. But I don't like him. His voice a little sulky as he said the last part. It's not easy to learn of who his father was, yet he didn't like the man at all. Why? Bai Yen asked. He is too fierce. Bai Xiachen pinches his lip to the side unhappily. In the little guy's mind, the perfect image of a father should be like his godfather Chu Fengyi, kind and warm and not frosty and fierce like the one here. Mother, can you be Godfather's wife? Swinging his arms around his mother's neck, Bai Xiachen pleads with those big innocent eyes. Godfather is kind and gentle, plus he's super rich, way better than that fierce man. If he did not know that the man was his old man, he would have long rushed out to fight when they were making that racket above his head. Recalling the kiss again, Bai Yen became a little embarrassed. He's not bullying me. Also, that kiss was started by her first. I saw everything. The boy's cheek was flushing from how steaming he was. That evil man bit you and made you bleed. No way I will like someone like that. Bai Xiachen was still young, so of course he didn't under what Sung really did. To him, he only knows his old man made his mother bleed on the lips there. Therefore, his first impression of Sung turned out very bad. Mother, I know it's because of that baddie being too strong and that you don't want him to take me away. Fear not though, I will quickly grow bigger, and when I do, I will bite him instead if he dares to bully you again. Warmed by her wonderful son's statement, Bai Yen felt like everything she's endured thus far was worth it. Xiachen, during this time I won't go back to the estate, but I will have your Auntie Holuo look after you. Once we are done here, I will take you away and never let that bastard find us again. A bit aggrieved that his mother won't be around with him for the next while, he nevertheless nodded. Don't worry mother, I will be good. But you must promise me that once you are done you must come find me and not leave me behind. If you like this translation, consider donating for an extra release or simply turning off adblock helps too. The Queen Dowager's Summon. 1. Next day, the early morning light of the sun had just sifted through the windowsill when a loud ruckus suddenly broke the serenity of the room from the outside. Wrinkling her brow at the commotion, Bai Yen gradually opened her sleepy eyes to find the nesting boy in her arms already gone. Just that. The temperature still lingering on the bed sheet proves he was still here not long ago. Cousin. Boom. Rudely barging through the door, Lan Xiaoyun, girl cousin, appeared to be in quite the good mood based on how cheeky and gloating her face was. What happened? Seeing her cousin like this, Bai Yen can already guess something must have happened while she was asleep. This translation is only hosted on Catranslation. Cousin, do you remember you had my father go find cousin at the Bai house after dinner? A gleeful smile escapes the girl. Last night my father had a falling out with that Bai Zhengxiang. The bastard tried to stop him from seeing Bai Xiao, but my father forced his way inside regardless. Oh. Pricking her brow, Bai Yan became a little confused here. How is this considered a good thing? Of course this isn't it. What I want to say is another thing. A cunning and sinister light beams out of the girl's eye. When my father and his people forced their way into the inner quarter of the manor, they saw Yu Rong going crazy. It's like she's possessed, constantly scratching her hand, and most importantly, she started to strip dance in front of the public. Sinking in her complexion, Bai Yan can already guess it's her son's doing. Nevertheless, she had to admit, it's beautifully done. Cousin, are you not happy? At the time many people saw Yu Rong's nude body. Though the girl's face was flushing at her own statement, the excitement in those eyes cannot be hidden. If I had known Yu Rong would start strip dancing, then I would have had my father bring more people over to the Bai house. Thinking of the torture faced by her cruel stepmother, Bai Yan's lip inexplicably formed a smirk. The pain she inflicted on me years ago will be repaid one step at a time, and it will be I who will do it. Tilting her head, Lan Xiaoyun blinks and blinks with confusion. Why does her cousin here look like she knows who's responsible? Fox? All of a sudden, the young girl recalled a certain detail her father mentioned to her this morning. It said that the Bai house was in the middle of searching for a fox last night, which coincided with the fox they encountered on the road yesterday. Instantly, her eyes sparkled with realization. Cousin, can it be you? Stretching her arms like someone that's just awoke, Bai Yan interrupts the girl's questioning. I'm going to wash up, so why don't you go outside for now? No. Lan Xiaoyun became all mopey. I haven't even finished what I wanted to say yet and you already want to drive me out. There's more. It's like this. Grandfather tasked me to inform you that the palace has sent for you. Her Highness the Queen Dowager is seeking your audience today, but since you were still asleep earlier, he wouldn't let me disturb you. Dowager? Bai Yan went quiet at the information she got. Her impression of the Queen Dowager wasn't deep, but she did learn that the relationship between her mother and the old queen was so good that she wanted Lan Yue to marry into the palace. However, due to her mother rejecting the idea, the outcome was the Queen Dowager taking Lan Yue as her goddaughter instead. In fact, when the old Bai Yan was still young, she had often visited the old queen in the palace with her mother. But ever since Lan Yue passed away, the young orphaned girl would seldom step out of the Bai estate, hence the reason why their former good relationship became so alienated. You go tell our grandfather that I will be entering the palace in a bit. Now that she's returned, it's unavoidable that she would make a visit to the palace. If you like this translation, consider donating for an extra release or simply turning off adblock helps too. The Crown Princess. Not interested, you, Ning Dai's, queen, expression promptly changed for the worse. Bai Yan, don't even try to frame me here. Oh, if it's not your highness remarrying, then who else can it be inside the Phoenix Wing? It can't be Bai Ruo here now, is it? Then I must say give my congratulations here. Swinging herself up from the seat, Bai Yan's charming smile was so perfect that if one unsuspecting individual were to come across this, they would definitely believe it's true. Distorting in her expression, Ning Dai swears she would rush up this instant and beat this girl to death if not for the Lan House's power. This translation is only hosted on Catranslation. Ruo, you tell her instead. She can't bear to keep going, otherwise she might really go mad here. Yes, mother. Bai Ruo didn't show any signs of being affected by the remarks. Sister, the happy occasion is to do with you. I've convinced my mother the queen here to let you be my husband's concubine. Hurry and go back to the Lan house and prepare. They will be coming to pick you up today. Bai Yan literally fell into a laughing fit at this. From inside the pavilion, she advances in on Bai Ruo. Back then your Bai family wanted to sell me off to an old man as a concubine. Now, you are trying it again today. In your people's eye, do you think I'm only capable of being another's concubine? Slightly distorting in her face, not even Bai Ruo can keep up with her act when being pointed out in the open. I don't know what you are saying, my sister. When have we ever tried to sell you to an old man? Even if you don't like me, you can't frame me like this. I know, sister, you hold a lot of opinion on me, so to soothe this, I'm willing to offer you the position of crown princess if you wish. Ruo. Ning Dai yells out in protest, have her become the crown princess. Based on what? Your stomach is good and gave the royal family a son that can cause the animals of this world to prostrate in worship, while this unclean woman here only knows how to pair up with some wild man. Animal, prostrate in worship? A strange light came out of Bai Yan's gaze after hearing this. She had long known Bai Ruo had lied about this and used the incident to give her son a halo, but to hear it in person, she simply can't resist chuckling at the shamelessness. If you like the title of crown princess, then go ahead and keep it for yourself. Slowly coming up to the woman, Bai Yan puts on the aura of a superior being. I, Bai Yan, am not interested. She did not deliberately press down her voice, thus allowing the queen over there to hear every word of it. It's truly a strange occurrence here. When Ning Dai heard the girl was coveting her son earlier, her first feeling was disgust. But hearing it in person that Bai Yan wasn't interested, her immediately reaction became anger instead. Bai Yan, how dare you? My son is so excellent that it's not even an insult to make you his bedding maid. Now you dare to resist my order. Resist royal authority. Someone come, take her away. Wait. Bai Ruo suddenly breaks in. Hurrying to run over, she was ready to pull at Bai Yan's hand when the most unexpected happened. Beaming a cold light in her iris, Bai Yan didn't give any signal and directly jerked her feet upwards to land a tremendous kick at Bai Ruo's chest. Like a doll, she shot out like a cannonball across the air. Literally, every person present was left utterly shocked here. Even the queen herself was left stunned. Bai Ruo was a recognized genius, otherwise Ning Dai never would have allowed the girl to marry her son. But now, one kick and she's sent flying. If you like this translation, consider donating for an extra release or simply turning off adblock helps too. The queen makes a fool of herself, too, going stiff in the body. It appears Ning Dai had become overwhelmed by that frightening aura. Gritting her teeth, we're leaving Ruo, let's go. Stunned by the order, Bai Ruo could only look at the departing queen's back in shock and disbelief. As the queen of the harem, she would cower in front of Ditsang. Can this man really be that powerful? 1. The man's voice was oppressive and cold, forcing Bai Ruo to turn ashen with fear. Not wishing to face the ire of this man alone, she hurries to chase after the queen from the back. This translation is only hosted on Catranslation. Taking this all in, Bai Yan's eye reveals a sinister light as she smiles at the departing figures. But then, a deep, low growl came into her ear. Next moment, she found herself being pressed against the wall. The eyesores are gone now. Bai Yan, don't you think it's time you give me some explanation about your pre-marriage pregnancy? This man, talk about changing face faster than flipping a page. Shirking, Bai Yan faces that handsome face head-on. Why do you ask when you already know? I, Bai Yan, hooked up with another man while being unmarried. Then I got pregnant and eloped. What else is there to say? Bai Yan. Ditsang's eyes looked irritated. Are you going to confess only after I shove the evidence in front of you? In the end, he couldn't resist falling back into his same old demeanor. At the beginning Ditsang only wanted to prove this woman to be the very same person who raped him back then so he can make some payback. But now, after listening to Bai Yan's own word that she hooked up with another man, there's suddenly a burning urge for Ditsang to take her right here and now on this spot. Ditsang. Tilting her head, she smiles knowingly. Why are you constantly hanging around me? Can it be, you fell in love with me? Love? Pulling back his emotions, Deetsung honestly didn't expect a question like that. For hundreds of years, he's never had any feelings for the opposite sex, let alone talk about love. Love? What a joke. When have I ever fallen for a woman? Bai Yan, you better hope I don't find out back then it's you. Otherwise. Threatening in his voice, he first swept his gaze at that chest, then at the bottom half. It's too obvious in what Deetsung means by that. Now Bai Yan was already regretting in what she said. If she knew today would turn out like this, then years ago she would rather self-incinerate than to be stuck in this unending relationship with this horrible man. You are a man, Deetsung, is it so bad that you must pursue the matter to this end? Making a hair-raising smile, the man comes clean. I originally only wanted to give some payback, but now it seems that aside from raping me, the woman also kidnapped my child. That's a scenario even worse than before. Shuddering at the remark, Bai Yan wanted to flee this instant and go back to the Holy Land. Thankfully she can tell Deetsung still hasn't confirmed the existence of her son just yet. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here talking like this here. I never met you before. Bai Yan didn't want to meet that dangerous gaze, and, my child isn't yours. Besides, that child is lost long ago. When these words came out, she definitely felt that big hand shuddering at her statement. It's unsure why, but she involuntarily shifted her face to the side to hide her guilt. You think I will believe you? The man forces her chin up, rousing her eyes to meet his. You are too scheming, I won't be blinded by your lies. If you like this translation, consider donating for an extra release or simply turning off adblock helps too. Deetsung's might, one, and you, will always only be worthy of being a consort. A being that can only stand in the dust while looking up at me. Back over at the Bai house. Bai Ji was currently sobbing away in the arms of her father, soaking the man's clothes in the process. Since you are fine now, then get some rest. As for your grudge, I will get it for you, my daughter. Thinking about what's happened with his family recently, Bai Zhengxiang heavily rubs his temple to soothe that ache. First of all was his wife Yurong inexplicably going crazy, causing him to lose all his face in front of the public. Then it's his youngest daughter being beaten up and tossed in front of the gate. With all that happening, how can he not be bothered? Family chief. Exactly at this moment, the housekeeper reverently came through the door and said, Eunuch Li is here at our home. He's carrying a decree from Her Highness the Queen and it's meant for third miss here. This translation is only hosted on Translation Queen's decree. Bai Ji became stunned by this. Why would Her Highness send a decree for me? Daughter, let us first go receive it first, don't let the man wait too long. Bai Zhengxiang's tight brown finally loosened. Someone come, help my daughter get dressed. Yes, chief. Hearing the call, the two waiting maids outside the doorway entered the room, and through their efforts, Bai Ji now dons a yellow dress of exceptional quality. Due to the unknown of what awaited her, Bai Ji was rather nervous when heading out. Inside the main hall, Eunuch Li was quite enjoying himself by sipping away at the tea prepared for him. Nevertheless, the man didn't need to wait long because Bai Zhengxiang and her daughter soon came rushing out from the back as expected. The young maiden was very beautiful right now, a natural beauty even without the use of makeup. What pleasure do we have for Eunuch Li to make a personal visit. This Eunuch Li was the most favored man under the queen, so it's imperative that Bai Zhengxiang show his respect. I am here under her queenship's order to pass on her decree to give Miss Ji over there. From that pruned face, a wrinkled smile comes out as he stood up to meet the two. Now come on, kneel so I can hand you this wonderful news. Blinking in surprise, Bai Ji rushes to the floor following her father's lead. Ji of the Bai house is fair and virtuous with outstanding talent, therefore, such a rare woman deserves a man of equal talent. By order of her queenship, Bai Ji is to marry Lord Sung as the main wife in the coming predetermined date. This was indeed a huge surprise. Blinking in absolute astonishment, Baiji didn't even know how to take it all in. Right now, the only thing her ears can pick up were the word marriage. Miss Ji, congratulations to you. Her queenship has already ordered the heavenly inspector to find a good day for you. At that time, you will officially be Lord Sang's official wife. The smile on that old prune became even deeper. Don't assume just because he's the most favored eunuch under the queen that he can do whatever he likes. There's no way he would offend the Bai house in its current state. One was already the crown princess, while the other will soon be Lord Sang's main wife. Who in this kingdom can still fend off that sort of connection? Daughter, what are you waiting for? Hurry and go forward to receive the decree from Eunuch Li's hand. Seeing Baiji still stuck in a daze like that, he sternly called out to snap the girl back to reality. Recomposing herself, the girl first stared at the royal scroll in the man's hand, then up at that wrinkly face. Next moment, an unbelievable amount of joy flowed out of those eyes. Father, Lord Sang is willing to marry me, he's willing to marry me. Standing up in excitement, she firmly holds onto that royal decree like it's her dear life. From now on I will be the only main wife of Lord Sang. If you like this translation, consider donating for an extra release or simply turning off adblock helps too. Di Tsang's might, too, hearing Baiji's excitement, Eunuch Li didn't bother to explain in more details and continued to smile. This time, he not only needed to pass on the decree to the Bai house, he also needs to make another visit to the Lan house and the Tsang manor. It didn't matter anyways in the man's view. Now that the queen herself had made the decision, there's no way Lord Sang would dare resist the order. Miss Ji, I still have other business to attend to. I shall take my leave first. This translation's in only hosted on Patranslation, someone come. Bai Jingxiang had also come back to his senses by now, help see Eunuch Li out. Naturally, Baiji could care less whether or not the eunuchs existed now that she has the decree in her hands. Making a shy face, Father, I'm going to tell the world of this, that I'm going to be Lord Sang's wife. This way those women out there can forget about having the idea of eyeing my fiancé. Especially Bai Yen, that bitch. So what if you can get my fiancé's attention? In the end you are nothing but an unclean woman. Lord Sang will never take you as his wife. Very well, go then. Sweeping away the gloominess from before, Bai Jingxiang reveals a proud smile on that handsome face. Also, go take a trip to the Lan house and have them attend your wedding ceremony. I want those people to know that my daughter will always be the best. As for Bai Yen, nothing but an unfilial daughter that's been expelled from her family. Yes, father, I will do that. Sticking out her tender tongue in happiness, she hastily runs out of the estate with the decree still in hand. In truth, even if her father doesn't tell her to, Baiji would definitely make another visit to the Lan house to gloat. Sang Manor, majestic and mighty in its appearance. Even the two golden lion statues at the gate seems to come alive at a glance. This left Eunuch Li quite scared by the imposing image before him. You go make a visit to the Lan house. Turning to the little eunuch following behind himself, Eunuch Li orders the boy, directly pass the queen's decree and order Bai Yen to become Lord Sang's concubine. He has already finished the task of pleasing the main wife, so of course he wouldn't need to bother with a measly consort. Making a slight bow, the young eunuch accepts the order and went ahead to carry out his order. Alone again, Eunuch Li was ready to step inside the estate when the two standing guards stopped him at the entrance. Halt! His lordship has ordered, no one is allowed inside without his explicit order. Gently knitting his brow over the fact that he's been left standing outside, I am here to pass on the queen's decree. Please have Lord Sang come out to accept it. Queen's decree. The two guards exchanged a look with each other, their foreheads beginning to seep sweat. The lordship's order is absolute. No matter who comes, there will be no exception. Eunuch Li's forehead became tighter and tighter. Hastening to step forward another step, his sharp voice cries out again, "By the Queen's decree, please have Lord Sung come out to receive his order." Echoing in the air, that voice wouldn't scatter even after a long time. Seeing there's no response from the inside, he wanted to try again when an overbearing and tyrannical voice cuts him off. Scram! Scram! Those old eyes widened in disbelief. This Lord Sung is really acting like that? I'm here on behalf of her queenship and he actually dares to have me scram. Drenched with sweat, the guards knew their lord was starting to get angry. Rushing forward, the two was ready to force the old eunuch away when the man cries out again, "Lord Sung, I am here to bring a wonderful news to you. The queen has arranged for one of the daughters of the Bai house to marry you." Bai Yen is my woman. 2. Upon hearing the woman's defense, the ministers were all starting to discuss it down below. It's as she says, they had all heard or seen Bai Yen being all intimate with Lord Sung at the banquet that night. But the girl's reputation was already so notorious, so how can she possibly be a match for the royal family? Lord Sung, this. Nangong Yuan became tied in finding a proper response. Ignoring all the rest, Sung raises his chin and looks down in a condescending manner at the woman. That Bai Ji is nothing more than a daughter of a woman who lusted after an orphan girl's dowry inheritance. How can she be called gracious and virtuous? The man's voice was gloomy and cold, forcing Ning Dai to shudder in response. This translation is only hosted on Patranslation. If anyone were to know the truth behind that, then Ning Dai would definitely be the first on the list. Over the years, Bai Ruo had on many occasions offered her a variety of jewelries and gifts, many of which are part of that batch of dowry, thus making her a partial accomplice in the whole theft. But then what does that have to do with Bai Ji anyways? This was the one part that perplexed Ning Dai. There must be some misunderstanding here. Bai Ji's character is trustworthy, so Lord Sung can be assured that there wouldn't be another better maiden in the entire kingdom, aside from Bai Ruo, that is. At this point Ning Dai only knew that she needs to push Bai Ji into the limelight of being the perfect girl for the man, causing her to lose track of the ever-darkening face of the king there. Aside from Bai Ruo, Bai Ji is the best? Then what about the princesses of the royal family? So she is saying those two are superior to the female body of the royal family? Are all the women in this world dead? I'm quite surprised you can even say those two are the best when their misdeeds are so lengthy. Making a snickering sneer, in my eyes, even a female dog is far superior than those two. Ning Dai's face promptly went green because she never expected the man to be so presumptuous in front of the entire court. Mercilessly biting down to keep going, "Lord Sung, don't you think you are being a bit too much by picking on two weak women? What's so bad about Bai Ji? No matter how I look at it, she's still superior to Bai Yen." Now this time Sung couldn't even keep up his angered face. Laughing, he slowly walked up to the kneeling woman with an overwhelming amount of pressure. "Firstly, you are in no position to decide my marriage. As the king of the entire demon realm, why would he care to be bound by the rules of the human world? Secondly, Bai Ji is no different from a dog bitch that's in heat. If you lot dare continue your stupidity, I wouldn't mind finding a male dog to start mating with her." Now Ning Dai was truly frightened by Sung's remark. She never expected a man could utter such foul and filthy language like that. Thirdly, stopping in his step, Sung suddenly squats down in front of the woman and openly grinned, "The man that you all keep talking about is me. Bai Yen is my woman." Boom! Like a thunderstorm, the entire crowd were knocked off their senses by that statement. It's too sensational, it's too overwhelming, and it's too unbelievable. Bai Yan's man is him. What does that mean? 6 years ago, I was plotted by my enemies and was poisoned as a result. At the time, I happened to meet Bai Yan by accident and forced my way with her against her wishes. So, if anyone in the future keeps spouting more nonsense, I will see to it that the fool can never see the light of day again. No matter where they run, no matter where they hide, I will hunt them down to the ends of this world. What sort of arrogance, and what sort of strength would a man need to utter such a threat? However, none here would doubt Deetsung could pull that off. The aura coming off of him was simply too overwhelming. Shuddering on the floor, only despair could be found in Ning Dai's pale face right now. How can this be? How can the man back then be Deetsung? Does that mean the wild child from her stomach is also his? Bai Ji becomes a joke. Despite being in the midst of the afternoon, the guards can only feel their skin shivering as the winds around them became colder and colder. Your Highness. First patting her skirt to remove some of that dirt, Bai Ji then shyly started to fiddle with her dress. I wish to ask for your forgiveness. I didn't see you earlier, that's why I was so careless. Maybe it's due to that charming and shy voice, but Deetsung finally moved his attention to the girl in question. Who are you? The man's dominant voice was damp and cold, leaving Bai Ji freezing up on the spot. Your Highness, We met at the banquet before from the other night. I'm your fiancé. How can he not know who I am? What used to be indifference in the man's face was now that of surprise after hearing her statement. This translation is only hosted on Catranslation. Little Yen Yen, did you put on a disguise? Deetsung's lip curved into a smirk. Unfortunately, I still prefer your original look better. With this new face, I fear I might become impotent due to fright. The guards that came with him nearly couldn't keep their composure up and literally had to choke on their own urge to laugh. If they didn't know Deetsung's personality so well, they will no doubt be fooled into believing that superb acting skill portrayed by their lord today. PFFF, seriously, at the very least this young girl is good enough to be called a fresh flower, but to be insulted like that, talk about cruel. Your Highness, pinching her lips together, a layer of water was starting to form on those eyes. You've confused me with someone else. I am Bai Ji from the Bai family. It's Bai Yen again, that bitch. What's so good about her to warrant such obsession from Lord Song? But it matters not anymore. With Her Highness the Queen backing me, there's no way Lord Song would dare refuse the arrangement. Deetsung's face promptly turned dark. From those seductive eyes, a spark of cruel and savageness starts to emulate out of those irises. You are not little Yen Yen. You got some nerve to be impersonating my fiancé. You there, guard, what's the punishment for someone pretending to be a member of the royal family? To answer your highness's question, the heaviest penalty is the death sentence for the entire family clan, the lightest being imprisonment inside the prison. Impersonating a royal family member. Bai Ji widened her eyes in disbelief, her lips trembling from fright. No, I'm not pretending. I have here the Queen's decree. You cannot disobey her order. Queen. Deetsung's smile was cold and cruel. The Queen herself is already banished to the cold palace, so how can her decree still hold weight? Boom. Like an explosion inside her head, Bai Ji's complexion instantly went white without an ounce of blood left in there. Losing her balance due to her legs giving way, she was ready to fall again when her hands managed to catch onto the closest tree. Only like that does she manage to stay upright. No. I don't believe you. How can Her Highness suddenly be banished to the cold palace? All of you must be lying to me. When it came to the last part of her sentence, that piercing cry was borderline crazy. Beads of tear came pouring out like raindrops. There's no way I'm going to believe this. If it's true, then what's going to happen to my marriage? Immediately send her to the prison. Deetsung's smile had turned outright evil at this point. Also, inform the world that Bai Ji is impersonating herself as my fiancé to spread lies as well as having ill intentions for me. The crime is enough to warrant the death sentence to her entire clan, but thanks to Bai Yan's leniency, I will let this incident slide for now. If there's a second time, none of the Bai house family members will live to see another day. In the end, all strength had left Bai Ji's body after hearing that statement. Squatting down to the ground after losing her bearing, she bit her lips and erupted an intense hatred in her eyes. Little Bai Shachen's been exposed. Looking aggrieved in her face, Lan Xiaoyun had no choice but to follow behind her grandfather in this case. However, with every 3 steps she took, she made sure to look back once. Then in her final moment, the troublemaker pumps a fist as a gesture of encouragement. Bai Yan had just turned around when a cold hard lip pressed in against hers. Together at last, their intimate figure was so beautiful that it's no understatement to call this a masterpiece. You still owe me 7 kisses. After a long and intoxicating kiss, he finally relented. Di Tsang. Bai Yan was a little angry now. What the hell are you doing here? To kiss you, the reply was smooth and shameless. If I ever find out you've been secretly keeping my son from me, I will have you pay me back with a total of 10 sons. 10 sons? Does this guy take me for a breeding mare or something? This translation is only hosted on Catranslation, sneering in her voice. Considering your status and identity, there should be plenty of women who's willing you give you a son. Why are you so insistent on haunting me? So far, only you do not disgust me. Also, only this woman can make his manhood get a reaction. A beam of frost flickered across Bai Yan's eye. This man, only because I don't disgust him. There are so many women in this world, how can you claim I'm the only one who wouldn't disgust you? What if you encounter another in the future? Making a sarcastic snicker, Bai Yan continued, then what, have me share a husband with another woman? Unfortunately for you, I will never share my man with anyone. After leaving behind this sentence, she no longer bothered to look at the man behind herself. Instead, she turns to walk for the inner part of the courtyard. Watching the departing figure, Di Tsang's forehead inexplicably turned into a knot like a confused husband. What did I say that's wrong here? This woman has quite the temper. Seriously, when did I say she will share a husband? While still standing on the side, the guards that came with him only had their heads lowered, too afraid to speak. However, they definitely had a lot to say right now. Oh Lord, that's not how you pursue a woman. How can you say you like her just because she doesn't disgust you? There's no woman in this world who would agree to that. That's pretty much what the guards were screaming in their heads. Your Highness, all of a sudden, a man dressed in black descends from the sky, his tone respectful as he spoke. I've just finished my investigation. It's as you suspected, Miss Yen has a close relationship with the mistress, Hualuo, of the flower brothel. According to what I found, it said that Hualuo was saved by Miss Yen several years ago and has since swore her allegiance to the lady. This secret was no easy matter to discover because only those closely related to Hualuo would know this truth. And the man in black continues with his report. Through my investigation, I found out Hualu recently bought a certain estate in the city not long ago. Sneering, Di Tsang's eye lit up with glee. Bai Yan, this time, I like to see what sort of excuse you will make for me. In the eastern part of the city where the street was bustling with life, Bai Zhengxiang was currently standing in front of a certain manor with his eyes staring intently at the doorway. A little while later, a guard walked out from the inside. Please go back, Lord Bai, my little master doesn't wish to meet you. Sure enough, the man's expression was a little disappointed at the news. Then can I inquire about whether or not your little master is Miss Hualuo? A few days ago, he had already learned about the flower brothel buying out this manor, and according to his information, the one to carry out the task was one of the guardians, working directly under Hualuo. The rumored other people's child, serious while also cute in his little face, Bai Shachen righteously speaks. Xiaopeng, now it's you who's not right there. It's already wrong that you like to steal the maid's underwear, but you can't even keep your chubby hands off your sister. Wang Xiaopeng wanted to cry now because he didn't expect his friend there to take an extra kick at him in this situation. Look at Xiachen and yourself. Look how sensible he is and how sick you are. Oh heavens, why do I have such a perverted son? At a young age and he's already so lustful. Not only are all the maids at home victims of his perverted deeds, now he's even going after his own sister. If this isn't a perverted sicko, then what is? This translation is only hosted on Catranslation. As bad as his past records were, Wang Xiaopeng really didn't do it this time because even he has his limits. Once it becomes known on who set him up today, he swears that he will definitely kill them. Uncle Wang, Bai Xiachen politely made his greeting. I got something I like to discuss with Xiaopeng. Is it alright with you that we stop this for now? Once I'm done, you can beat him again then. At the sight of the good little boy, in his eyes anyway, Wang Deqiu's father, angry face promptly turned to that of kindness and joy. Okay, he repeated the word 3 times in a row. Then shifting his warning glare back to his chubby son, you should learn something from Xiachen here, and don't just go ogling those beautiful maids every day. If there's ever a second time like today, don't blame me for breaking your legs. Oh, why can't my son be like other people's? At this rate I will really meet my maker soon because of this brat. Wang Xiaopeng's eyes looked so depressed. Xiachen, why do I always feel like you are my father's son instead while I'm the one who he picked up from the street? Huh, Bai Xiachen blinked and blinked. Forget it, your father is just like you. The moment he comes across a beauty on the street, he will lose himself and start drooling. As if suddenly catching onto a common language, Wang Xiaopeng's eyes started to shine. You also think like that? Actually, I don't want this kind of father either. Why don't we do this? You be my father instead. Bai Xiachen became paralyzed, his big eyes widening in disbelief. What the heck is this? Why did I suddenly get a son? Brother. A tender voice suddenly drifted over, knocking the chubby kid off his feet due to fright and embarrassment. Like a pristine doll, the newcomer was Wang Xiaotong, the younger sister. Due to those pink cheeks, the girl looked ever so innocent as she walked over to them. Brother, watch it, otherwise I will tell father what you just said here. I was just making a joke. He chuckles awkwardly. You mustn't tell him, or else I'm sure I'll be killed. Wang Xiaotong ignored her brother's excuse and turned to face the reason why she's here. Xiaopeng, Xiaotong. Facing his 2 friends, Bai Xiachen sounded very sad in his voice. I'm here to say goodbye. I'll be leaving here soon. You are leaving? Wang Xiaopeng was shocked. Grabbing onto his friend's hand, that chubby face became a sad one. We only just met and you are already leaving? Giving a very difficult nod, the big baddie is about to find me, so mother is having me go back. But don't worry, once I grow up and is strong enough, I will definitely return to see you too. Make sure you don't forget me by then. Wah! Unlike her brother that's less emotional, Wang Xiaotong straight up burst out in tears. I can't bear to see you leave. Little Bai Xiachen is discovered. Bai Yan became furious because no one knows a child better than their mother. What she didn't expect though was Di Tsang resorting to such low means to force Xiachen, baby, out. Just as Bai Yan was busy praying for her son to not come out, a tender voice broke all of that. From behind the man, big baddie, let go of my mother. By now Di Tsang's fingers had already loosened their grip, thus allowing the woman to scramble over to embrace her son like a mother guarding their treasure. Mother, you don't need to be afraid, I will protect you. No one can separate us. Like a little adult, Bai Xiachen soothingly pats her mother's back despite being extremely fearful himself. This translation is only hosted on Catranslation this time. Di Tsang can finally get a good look at that little boy in Bai Yan's arms. The little guy was a real looker. Like a jade carving, he's cuddly and cute all around despite trying to put on a stubborn face. Furthermore, the kid was undeniably a miniature version of himself. Deetsung's voice sounded croaky and low, like his eyes carried an unspeakable emotion. You are called Xiaochen? Pursing his small lip, Bai Xiaochen haughtily said, I'm not so familiar with you, so you should be calling me by my full name. Deetsung's face instantly went cold. I'm your father. You are a big baddie that likes to pick on my mother. You also want to separate us, so I don't want you. The boy was rather revengeful when it came to grudges, especially on topics related to Bai Yan. Smirking, the man lays out the truth to the boy. If I didn't say that, would you have turned yourself in? Bai Xiaochen was dumbfounded. What does he mean by that? Intentionally scheming to lure me out? He immediately broke out into tears. Mother, I don't like him, he's actually sneakier than you. I like Godfather more. Godfather? Deetsung gnashed his teeth as he spoke. You still have a godfather? My godfather is gentle and rich, enough to fend off any country. The boy said it in such a proud way that he completely forgot to take notice of Deetsung's surging level of anger. I can lack anything in this world, just not money. Say it, how much do you want? I will give you whatever amount you ask for. Rich enough to fend off a country. So what? I'm the king of the entire demon realm, that's way better than some measly human kid. Bai Xiaochen's expression was a bit tied there. However, he eventually made up his mind. Those who pick on mother are bad people. I don't want your money. Comparing money to his mother, of course he would choose his mother. When did I pick on her? From Deetsung's view, it had always been this woman leading him on to hurt other people. You can't lie to me, I saw everything while under the bed. You bit my mother's lip so hard that she... Aha! Before the baby boy could finish his words, Bai Yan had already covered that blabber mouth. Giving a guilty glance at the man, she can see Deetsung's face clearly went darker there. So the one hiding under the bed from back then is this kid. His voice was swinging with anger because he's very upset with himself. How could he have missed the boy when he was so close? Yes, Deetsung, I admit it, it was I back then who wronged you 6 years ago. Pulling the boy into her arms, Bai Yan braces herself and admitted to the truth. It's just that Xiaochen is raised by me, I can't give him to you. He's my lifeblood and my only care. If you try to take him away from me, then I will make you suffer at all cost. Do you love me? Deetsung's eyes slightly narrowed in as he encroached onto Bai Yan. Suddenly, the atmosphere turned heavy and creates an oppressive air around them. He is my son, so of course he has to follow me. The man looked proud as he said this. And you? After what you've done to me, you still think you can leave on your own? Not for this lifetime. Bai Yan's gaze gradually turned sharp. Then are you trying to push us to the end? If so, I, Bai Yan, would rather self-incinerate than to yield to you. Those words were like a fist, smashing heavily into Deetsung's heart. This translation is only hosted on Catranslation. What's wrong with me? Why would you refuse me on every step? For all these years, he has never been so low in standing. It had always been him dishing out the punishment. Deetsung. Bai Yan's lip curved into a smile. Then let me ask you, do you love me? Love? Deetsung was somewhat confused here. His emotional experience was a complete blank that even his first time was done in by Bai Yan from back then. And now, this woman had already asked him for the second time this very same question. Your heart doesn't have me, nor do I have you. Why do you insist on forcing me to go with you? Is it because I gave you a son? A smirk escaped that fine red lip. But there are so many women out there more than willing to conceive a child for you, so I won't hand myself over to a man that doesn't love me. No, in this world, there is only one person who can give me a child. This was the destined prophecy inside the demon realm, also the main reason why he's here in the human world. It's to meet her, which did happen on the first day. Bai Yan. Sung loudly cries this out, forcing the woman to a halt. In response to this, Bai Yan could only tightly hold on to her son, afraid the man might snatch him away when she's not noticing. I will give you some time and not take him away, but, the man suddenly reappeared in front of her, blocking the path with his imposing body. That aside, how are you going to explain the part about raping me and kidnapping my child? When it came to the ending part of that sentence, it was both oppressive yet also a bit sad. Then what do you want? Bai Yan subconsciously stepped backwards to gain some space. The man's eye narrowed down, his mouth a malicious grin, of course to rape you back. This was honestly the first time Bai Yan had ever heard someone say something so outlandish and with such confidence. As displeased as she was, she didn't dare raise an objection in these circumstances. Before she knew it, a powerful hand had grabbed her by the waist and off they went. With the adults gone, only Bai Xiaochen now remains in the yard. A long while later, only then did the baby boy come back to his senses to know he's about to cry. What happened to coming to steal me away? And why did the one to get stolen in the end is mommy instead of me?